Take 3, everybody.
Third time's a charm, right? Third time's a charm.
Yeah, and speaking of 3, this episode has 2 3s in it.
It does.
It's episode 233.
It sure does. Thank you, Kevin. I'm Jason.
If you add up all those numbers, it equals 8.
Okay, well, now it just sounds weird that I randomly said I'm Jason and no one followed up with their part. It's just like, I'm Jason and he started doing math. Either way, welcome to Round Nintendo. This is what you're in for the next 2 hours. I'm Jason.
I am also in this podcast.
Do you have a name?
I'm kind of in this podcast.
I think you all have names. Do I have to pull Kevin? All right, let's do a quarantine style. To my virtual right is Angel.
Is that right?
I'm actually on your virtual left.
Oh, man. All right, to my virtual left is Angel. To my virtual right has to be Kevin. Just by process. I guess he could be above or below me. Kevin, where are you?
I'm definitely above you.
Oh, okay. I set myself up. Anyway, so this episode, that was a painful opening. But yeah, this episode, we're calling this episode. I know, Kevin. I'm calling this episode
234,
33. You just did the math, right. And you did the math wrong you did the math right. Yeah, it's 233. But we're calling this episode Novel Concepts because it's full of just.
I'm a future thinker. I
you really are.
Episode ahead.
Usually you just don't know. So, I mean, the fact that you're ahead is better than what you normally are. So I'll give you credit for that. But yeah, this episode, what a start. But yeah, this episode we're calling Novel Concepts because it's really just that. And like in a figurative sense, we're going to be sharing impressions of a game that is kind of a novel concept that Kevin's been playing, Elder Scrolls Blades, which is like what if Elder Scrolls existed before, like when its genre was still like first-person dungeon crawlers. So we have that. In the literal sense of novel concepts, we've got impressions of Liberated, a game whose entire concept is that it's set inside a graphic novel and you actually like turn the pages to read it. And we have it in a sarcastic sense, as in, finally, what a novel concept that Donkey Kong Country is finally on Switch Online, which I know is something Angel's been wanting forever.
No,
Plus, of course, there's...
But yeah.
You haven't wanted it forever, or it isn't?
He's wanted Donkey Kong Country 2.
True. But the series has to start somewhere. Okay, fair enough. But still a novel concept that Nintendo's actually taking a major game from the Super Nintendo and putting it out instead of like some game you've never heard of that was played by 5 people. So, progress. But plus, of course, we have news. We're talking the Lego NES. We're talking Mario's anniversary branding or lack thereof. The general kind of lack of marketing cohesion around the industry in general right now. Nintendo's Bakugan surprise and 2000 revivals from the 2000s we may actually want to see instead of Bakugan. And Switch June sales numbers and this whole new idea of video game shows, which is kind of a novel concept in and of itself. So, there's timestamps for all that. RamTown.com, which, yes, for those who are keeping score at home, is back up and running after our downtime at the start of the week. If the load times seem a little slow to you,
who would be keeping score? Like,
I don't know. Maybe someone checks
it
daily.
It's like, all right, day 10 without Random Nintendo. Add that. That hash mark.
We might be that important in someone's life. We don't know. No one ever tells us anything, so we really don't know. Well, I'm going to assume.
I guess that's one thing I learned. There's always going to be one person that would. At least.
Yeah, his name's Jason.
Yeah, I was about to say, if nothing else, it's me. Because I was keeping score, because I was the one that got to deal with the downtime. But anyway, it is back up. It is loading a bit slow. It's not you, it's us. We're working out with our host to address it, but we know. But the MP3s load lickety-split fast, so if you're using a podcast app, you're good. But yeah, enough housekeeping. Let's do this thing. Let's actually talk.
So novel concept. I don't understand what novel means in this case, or what is the definition of novel? Like,
sure,
not
so like,
as in books.
So a novel concept, like
because whenever I read The Verge, like a story on The Verge about coronavirus, they call it the novel coronavirus.
Oh no, that's different.
What exactly does that mean?
Okay, so novel by definition is a well, actually, Google's not helping me here. So a novel idea, I can help you there.
Never been seen.
Yes, there you go. It's something new and original. So the novel coronavirus means it's not a different version of the coronavirus, or it's not like an existing 1 through 18. It's the new coronavirus, the newest form of it. And a novel concept is something that kind of sticks out one way or another. So people use it literally in the case, well, not literally, but I'm using it literally for Liberated, but also like figuratively, like that's a novel concept, that's something different, and sarcastically when it's something that should have happened, it should have been a thing done, but isn't, like Switch Online. So that's kind of where this came from.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Little English lesson for everyone. Thank you. I was about to say overruled, but that doesn't make sense, and I'm not a judge. Anyway, let's just start with before this goes even more off the rails. Let's just talk about what we're playing. It's what we always start the quarantined episodes with, and we've been in that for a few months. I feel like I always start first. So, Kevin, why don't you actually kick things off for once with Elder Scrolls? Elder Scrolls Blades.
Elder Scrolls Blades. Yeah, hold on. So, Elder Scrolls Blades, for those who don't know, it's a free-to-play entry in the Elder Scrolls series. Canonically, I looked this up. It takes place between game number 4, Oblivion, and Skyrim. And confession time, I have never actually played an Elder Scrolls game, and I'm sure that Skyrim would be right up my alley. Yeah.
So what attracted you to Blades? Huh. Before we get into what you think of it, what made you go, this is for me, if you've never been part of that world?
Oh, I will get to it, because surprisingly, and like Skyrim would be right up my alley, but surprisingly, this game is a Gomi game. It's 100% a Gomi game.
Is it?
A new genre that I've created, which is like the mindless, repetitive game that you can play with like a TV show, a video, a Twitch broadcast, or a podcast in the background. So something a la like Final Fantasy 14, Destiny 2. You get the idea. Mm-hmm. So like for the first couple of hours, I was actually having like a good time with it until something started rearing its head, which I'm sure some of you guys can guess what that is, based on how I described this game right at the top.
Can I take a guess?
Go for it.
Free to play.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. So you play an adventurer who returns to their village, and you find it destroyed. So you've got to go on quests to find and save villagers to find out who and why this village was attacked. So there is an underlying story in this game. Unlike the mainline games, though, there is no open world. The village that you're at does act as a hub world where you accept quests. The quests, though, they're on a list that you pick and choose, and when you initiate a quest, you are essentially like whisked away to a linear dungeon that's full of enemies, and you just literally have to make it to the end. It's literally, you just get from point A to point B. That's it. The combat is interesting in which you can't control the camera, like when you aggro an enemy. As soon as you aggro an enemy, you sort of go in this like 1v1 camera mode. Mm-hmm. Although you could have up to about like 3 enemies at a time. Oh. Yeah. You're locked in, and all you can do is basically swing your weapon, use magic, use your abilities, and block with your shield. The way that you actually swing your weapon, it's not like you just press a button. You hold down and you release ZR or ZL, and then you can use your magic or abilities by using the face buttons on your controller. And then you block with your shield by just pushing up on the left stick. And honestly, that's all you're doing for the entire game. You choose a quest from a list, you're transported to a linear dungeon, you fight monsters until you get to the end, and like along the way you'll find chests which have better armor or weapons, they'll have gold, they'll have crafting materials, and that's it. Rinse and repeat. There's even this never-ending randomly generated dungeon that you can use to grind for gear, items, XP, and there are daily and weekly quests that you can partake in. There's just a bunch of mindless fun to be had with this game. Like, this game was made for me. If you guys know the types of games that I play, this is all I need. Just something to play and just something to have in the background. But where the game started stumbling was when, as Jason accurately guessed, was when the free-to-play stuff started to become integral to the game. So among the like gold and materials that you gather, you're also going to gather gems. And they're a currency that will accrue by completing quests and opening chests, and eventually you'll actually need them to progress further into the story. Mm-hmm. So an example is when you need to build like a smithing workshop, right? You'll use gold and craft materials to craft it, but then for you to actually use it, you'll need to wait anywhere from like 20 minutes to 2 hours for you to use it because it's on a timer.
Right. Well, that almost makes sense as being on a timer. Like, that's what a few free-to-plays are. It's kind of like, oh, you're building something. It takes time to build. I guess some do that, but like, still not ideal, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you can just use the gems to speed up the process. And honestly, that's with most things in this game. If you want the blacksmith to upgrade your weapon, you'll have to wait anywhere, like I said, from 20 minutes to 2 hours for it to be upgraded, unless you use the gems. And you're going to want to have multiple blacksmiths, because blacksmiths can only smith or craft one thing at a time. But then that means that you're going to have to wait for your second or third blacksmith workshop to open up. And then you're going to have to wait, on top of that, however long it's going to take for a new weapon to be crafted or your weapon to be upgraded. And that's the stuff that led me to play this game even less, because I would say to myself, okay, let me wait for this building to finish in an hour, and then I totally forget about it until like 6 hours later, where I'd be like, oh, it was done about 5 hours ago, because I didn't want to use my gems, because they are like a premium currency in this game. And while you do get enough to get by, it's not enough for you. It's not like an abundance of gems that you get. And I guess the devs like know this, because after the first couple of boots on the Switch, I started to get alerts as soon as I would start the game of like, hey, we have a deal in the store for some gems or like some super awesome chests. Don't you want to come in and check it out? And I get that's what you have to deal with when it comes to free-to-play games. But then it just reminds me of why I don't really play them. So if you're okay with that, this might be more your game than my game. Honestly, the free-to-play stuff left a bad taste in my mouth.
I think what is most like weird to me about it, from what you're describing, is so free-to-play is one thing. Like, we've talked about a bunch of free-to-plays in the last few months, I feel like. But you boot up the game and it starts bombarding you with what would be the mobile version notifications, except there is no notification system on Switch. So it's just you load the game, it's like sale, 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 buy, buy, buy. Like, that seems aggressive to me.
Yeah,
I feel like Asphalt
it's an in-game,
and Pokemon don't quite do that as much.
Yeah, it's an in-game notification. It's not notifications on the Switch.
Yeah, because it can't do it on the Switch.
Right.
But it's just kind of annoying that when you start to get... Like, because at least when it's on your phone, like, it's a little more... Like, it's annoying to have them come in, but it's a little more passive in the sense of you're not actively trying to play and they're, like, roadblocks. They're not adding friction, but this sounds like it's actually adding friction. So, like, some free-to-play stuff I'm more loose about. Like, I feel like you not being into, you know, how much you have to either wait or grind or buy or whatever. Like, I don't mind that as much. Though, granted, I'm playing stuff that's more like racing games and puzzle games. But that, like, if I boot up the game and it was, like, a minute of just, like, did you buy this? Do you need to buy that? You should buy this. Maybe you should buy that. I feel like that would drive me crazy.
And to be fair, I don't know how the notification system works on mobile, on Android or iOS. So for all I know, you might be bombarded in game. But yeah, it wasn't pleasing to keep getting reminded. And every now and then, like in game, I would get notifications of like, hey, there's this new armor piece. And I'd look at it. In game, it's like, oh no, it's actually just directing me to the shop, which is kind of scummy, honestly. But I get it. It's a free-to-play game. They have to make money somehow, you know.
Which is weird. Like, I mean, is the UI, does it look like a normal game, or does it look like your typical like free-to-play UI that kind of looks like a bunch of ads and I guess a shop and
a bunch of bubble buttons?
No, not at all. It looks like a very, very simplified, I guess, RPG menu. One thing that did bother me was like to delete an item from your inventory. It takes like 5 button presses, because like you have to select the item, or first you have to go into the menu, then you have to select the item, then you have to inspect the item, then you have to click delete, and then you get a notification of like, are you sure that you want to delete this? And you have to say yes to that. So I mean, overall
the item.
So presentation wise, this game is fine across the board. Controls are fine, graphics are fine, music is fine. It's a fine game, but it's the free-to-play stuff that definitely drags it down.
Just overburdened.
Yeah.
Overbearing, it sounds like.
Pretty much.
That's too bad, because I think the concept... I remember trying at E3, I guess it was before they delayed it. It's like a year ago. And it was... I thought like the idea of kind of taking the Elder Scrolls skin and slapping it on top of like sort of a modernization of like an Etrian Odyssey type game was kind of neat, but... If the free play is that aggressive,
and some people might not find it as aggressive. Honestly, it's not that aggressive. It feels aggressive to me.
Right.
As someone who doesn't play a lot of free play games.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, maybe I should like go see if it's any worse than the ones I play.
Sure.
Because there are some I play. But
if it wasn't for the timer aspect of it or the bombardments of go to our store, I would absolutely continue playing this game. Apparently, there's a PvP aspect to it that I didn't unlock, but I didn't want to bother, honestly.
Did you try the motion controls at all? I remember them kind of billing that as what separates it from the other versions.
No.
Is you can pop the Joy-Cons off and swing around like a fool.
Oh no, absolutely not. I did play this on. I did play it in handheld mode, so obviously playing it with Joy-Cons would be a little weird there. By having
that's what the kickstand is for.
I don't have my kickstand.
Wait, where's your Switch's kickstand?
I have no idea. It was a wild night. And the kickstand was just gone the next day.
Oh. So it's like a Hangover movie, but less funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then I just used the Pro Controller for playing it on TV mode. Well, that's all I really got to say about the game. Fine game that's, like I said, overburdened by the free-to-play stuff.
Well, that's too bad. Especially because, like, Bethesda, I feel like if this did well... If Fallout Shelter, I guess that did well when it came out on Switch, and Skyrim, there's opportunity here for them to do more with their properties. But hopefully, this hit whatever metrics they need, so they don't do that whole we were doing a test on the Switch and the test failed, so bye, like so many companies used to do.
Right. Bethesda still has a bunch of. Has Doom Eternal come out yet? On Switch?
No, but they say the date is coming, quote, very soon.
Okay, yeah. So they're still supporting the Switch, which is nice.
Yeah.
That is cool, but it does feel like that game came out ages ago.
It came out in May.
Doom Eternal, yeah. I still haven't.
Oh, Doom! I thought you meant that came out in March. Yeah,
geez, those years, man.
Yeah. In quarantine days, that's centuries. Yeah,
pretty much. Speaking of quarantine, listen to Quarantine Chronicles here on the Red Nintendo podcast feed.
Beautifully done on the off weeks of our show. Beautifully done. All right, well, if that's Elder Scrolls, I guess I could talk about the literal novel concept of this episode, Liberated.
Let's do it.
Which, what? You said let's do it? But yeah, this, so first off, I should say that Walkabout Games, who made the game, was kind enough to provide us with a review copy of it. But, disclaimer aside, more than any other game, this is literally an interactive graphic.
I'm just kidding. I just said that explains
I just said
that explains a lot.
Wow, it does. I don't know what, but a lot of something. But more than anything else, I do want the thing I want to focus on is this game is literally an interactive graphic novel. It's divided into 4 comic book issues. The camera literally pans from page to page, frame by frame, each of which either presents a cinematic or some sort of interactive QuickTime event, or actual gameplay that takes place inside that specific comic frame of the page. And it's honestly one of the slickest presentations of games I've seen in a while. You may recall a few episodes back, we were talking about how games keep relying on the same art styles, and I pointed out that Liberated is one that doesn't. And in practice, having not played it, it is really cool what they did, because it's not just a comic or graphic novel. It's specifically they did this kind of dystopian film noir look, so everything's black and white. It's all hand drawn. It has this heavy use of shadows and light, which makes for a really cool aesthetic because you kind of bob in and out of the light or need to hide from guards and their flashlight beams. And the only color that ever actually shows up is when you're about to die and the edges of the screen turn red. But besides that, it's this kind of different shades of gray, and it has a look. It has a really cool look. But before I even get into the gameplay side of it, I keep talking about how this is a comic book, so I feel like I've got to address the story, since that's what comics are mostly about. And Liberated is sort of like a mashup of dystopian, cyberpunkish, us against the corrupt government plots. The things you see in movies and shows like V for Vendetta or Mr. Robot. And since Mr. Robot is one of my favorite shows, this is 100% right up my alley. And basically the game starts you in a near future, I think it's 2024 or so, where the government has implemented a social credit system, not unlike the one from that one Black Mirror episode. The difference here is that they marry it with a Minority Report sort of crime prediction system. And the character you play as initially, a guy named Barry, is someone who, A, is flagged by the government, and B, whose father invented the whole system. And pretty quickly, Barry gets recruited by this anti-government group who likes to hack things and broadcast videos wearing masks, F Society and Mr. Robot, or Anonymous in real life, or just the entirety of V for Vendetta. And you're sent on missions to go stop the government in various ways. The first of which is actually very reminiscent of early Mr. Robot, as you need to go infiltrate a remote server complex and blow it up. So
for those of us that haven't seen Mr. Robot, can you go over the entire plot?
No. Just go watch it. It's a really good show. Kevin, wouldn't you agree it's worth watching from start to finish?
I can agree. I love that show.
Yeah, there we go. It's a great show. And this pulls some inspiration from it, whether intentional or not. But so what I'm getting at really is like Liberated doesn't have the most original story per se. It's full of these kind of like unabashed, unapologetic tropes of the genre, but I do love the genre as a whole, and there's been a Mr. Robot size hole in my life that this does help to fill a little, so that's nice. And like I said, it does so through what amounts to 3 presentations, as I kind of said at the top of this. So you've got the cinematics, which play out through the various frames with lightly animated scenes and speech bubbles. You've got QuickTime events in the middle of some of those, which, to be blunt, feel a little shoehorned in just to try and justify an added gameplay element. Like one of the very first ones you do, you have to dodge police cruisers in a car, and you just hit A, X, and B, and it just kind of does it. Like, why those buttons? What do they signify? Why not steer? I don't know. They don't really correspond to anything, but they, I guess, keep you engaged. And then sometimes the game does give you choices to make with 1 or 2 button presses, and while it's kind of neat to see that some of the choices lead you to literally turn the page without finishing the panels of the one you're on, or to jump ahead in some other way, from what I can tell, they're not changing the course of the narrative. It's not like a Telltale level type of branching path story here. It's just ways to sort of feel like you have some choice when it's still a linear story. And also kind of unlike a Telltale game, which is, this is a fairly story-driven game like those, but there's much more standard gameplay in it. Like, once you get through all the cinematics and stuff, you're basically, the third, presentation form is that you actually hop into individual frames in a 2D side-scrolling, stealth shooter that has some light puzzle solving. Broadly speaking, you're running around, you're dodging people or police drones and hiding. You're sometimes needing to find switches to get past obstacles and complete one-off puzzles like decrypting a code by figuring out the placement of 4 digits in a way that is quite literally the game Hit and Blow from Clubhouse games, where you are told some are in the right spot and some are the right number, but you don't know which is which. You have to figure out how the correct combination. I had no idea Clubhouse games of all things was training me to overthrow governments, but here we are. It's literally 1-to-1. But what's kind of interesting with the gameplay is that the developers actually give you 2 ways to play. If you want to experience Liberated as more of a game, then it's up to you to aim your pistol with very little on-screen interface. It's up to you to be as stealthy as possible, dodge behind objects with tap of X as much as you can, and then kind of wait for guards to pass you, to choke them out from behind, or try and just be sneaky in general. The number of guards and obstacles is much higher. Or if you want to experience the game more as a comic book, if you want to experience the story, there's a reader option in which the enemy count is lower, you take more damage before dying, and most notably, your gun has an aim assist damage? UI. Yeah, you can take more damage before you die.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
so yeah. And most notably, your gun, like I was starting to say, has an aim assist UI element in the form of a kind of long line showing the bullet's rough path. And it can make a huge difference. Aiming can be pretty tricky without it. They mapped it to the right control stick, so you're kind of swinging it around like it's on a wheel. And your health when you play the player mode really is notably less, and you do die a lot quicker. There's not really a consequence if you die. You just restart the scene. But nonetheless, it is notably harder. And I found that in player mode, it requires you, because it's more of a game, quote unquote, you actually do need to be much more stealthy than in reader mode. So it's almost entirely different gameplay, because reader mode was almost like an action movie. I kind of felt like Jason Bourne as running and gunning and walking, and I just kind of make my way through scenarios and mow folks down as needed, and it's fun, but it is definitely more just to get to the story points if you do reader mode, while player mode absolutely has more of a challenge to it.
So basically, my playthrough of The Last of Us 2 versus Kevin's playthrough.
Yeah, essentially, it's that without the dynamic sliders to do it. It's just one of 2. It's like an on-off switch kind of. And initially, reader mode kind of makes sense because the story is the driving force. The ratio of cutscenes to gameplay in the first 35, 45 minutes very heavily is on the cinematic side, but as you do go through the game in later chapters, or issues, I guess they call them, it starts to flip, and you do start to get to play as other characters, and the gameplay becomes more in focus, and that's where I believe you can change the difficulty on the fly. So if you do decide, okay, maybe this is becoming too much play and I want more story, you can just sort of scale it back and make it easier. In all, there are 4 issues in total right now, so 4 chapters, but Walkabout has 2 more coming down the pipe. Free DLC for the Switch version sometime after the PC version launches, which I think is the end of this month, which actually I kind of want to focus on that for a sec, because that DLC will also come with improvements from the PC version that's launching. One thing I didn't mind too much in the current one is there's no voice acting. on the Switch version. This is a graphic novel after all, so it kind of makes sense that you're reading bubbles. But the PC version will get full voiceovers. Eventually it's coming to Switch, and something like that could dramatically change up how the game's presentation feels depending on the quality. You know, like if the voice acting's good, that's an improvement. If it's bad, it can actually be detrimental. My gut feeling is it'll probably be good because the sound design in Liberated is really good. Like, first off, they nailed the whole like synthy cinematic soundtrack of basically everything in this genre. But during the and like especially during the more actiony sequences, it really like it feels like you're in an action scene. But beyond that, like the actual use of sound effects and ambient noise to create kind of an atmosphere, I thought was really cool. And it's noteworthy because like the game's art style is so simple, like that noir art. Like they can show a rainstorm, and they can show swinging lights, but like having the sound that goes with it, it actually makes it feel more alive. Like it makes up for the visuals being so simple. It's actually really cool how they do it. Like I was pretty impressed. But yeah, I do hope the update is more good than bad. I do think they can do some nips and tucks when they bring it. The game's frame rate, for example, could probably use a little cleanup because it does get noticeably slow at times in at least handheld mode, how I played it. Likewise, the game does this kind of odd thing where you reach the end of the page of a comic, and while it loads the next one and all the frames for all the segments, you know, the gameplay, the cinematics, all that, it just kind of like sits there. Like it almost seems for like a good number of seconds like maybe the game froze. Like it never actually froze, but there's no indicator like, oh yeah, the page will turn, hang on. It just kind of sits there. But overall, if that stuff isn't detrimental, that stuff is not to me detrimental enough to really ruin the experience. I still having a good time with Liberated. I think the approach and the presentation, like an actual graphic novel you play, is really cool, and the good outweighs some of the cliched story concerns some people may have. Like to me, at least, as a dystopian junkie that loves when governments ruin everything in fiction, non-real life. But in fiction, when they ruin everything, it absolutely like stands out as a pretty cool, unique, different Switch experience. So I'm enjoying it. But yeah, that's kind of Liberated in a long nutshell, which I guess brings us to the sarcastic novel concept, which is of course, Angel, Nintendo listened to you. They finally brought the series of Donkey Kong Country to Switch Online. Maybe not the one you want, but
again, they did not listen.
One
to
of
me.
The three.
I just wanted
They heard like 3 out of 4 words. Donkey Kong Country 2, and they heard 75% of it.
And what they heard was, he wants Donkey Kong Country as well? We got you.
Exactly. And they're like, fine, we'll throw it in with, these are the other games. Give you an idea of how bad this scale is. They also released Natsume Championship Wrestling for Super Nintendo, and The Immortal, which is an NES RPG by EA that I've never even heard of. But yeah, Angel, Donkey Kong.
I've actually heard of that Immortal game. I was kind of surprised that actually made it over. Yeah.
What is it? Maybe we'd start there. I don't even know what it is.
I mean, I couldn't say much. I just said I heard of it. Not that I'm an expert on it.
Fair enough. I know it involves magic. It's like kind of isometric view.
It was just yeah. Back when I would watch Angry Video Game Nerd, he did a video on it, so that's kind of where I heard from it.
Interesting. But yeah, it's definitely not the banner game. The banner game is Donkey Kong Country. I assume you've already played it like a dozen times through, even though it's not the one you wanted, just because it has most of it.
It's no DKC2, but we take what we can get. It's like the only. Yeah, it's the only decent game on the Nintendo online service right now.
Whoa, shots fired. I don't know about that one.
The only game I find worth booting up the service for.
There we go.
I personally.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely a lot of personal preferences, but even this one, like, I mean, I love this game. Just booting it up for the first time or just playing through the first few levels, like, I just couldn't really contain my happiness, like, as I was playing it. It's, like, definitely one of those, like, just, like, brings tears to your eyes, like, as, like, you're just listening and interacting with it. I mean, and a lot of that is mainly because this was, like, the first game that I ever played that I owned. Like, I got my Super Nintendo in that Donkey Kong Country bundle with the Super Nintendo. It came, like, in a special, like, DK style box that was nice and long and had like palm trees all over it. And yeah, so I mean, I was 5, so this was like definitely right at that sweet spot, and it was like the game we played a ton. And I mean, I would say it still holds up. It can still be challenging, but like, it definitely, as I'm playing it, it definitely reminds me why it's not my favorite Donkey Kong Country. Like, a lot of the stuff, it's just too straightforward. Like, they do have, like, quote-unquote secrets and stuff to find, but those things only really give you extra lives. There's like no real incentive to get them because lives are kind of plentiful, and it kind of, at least to me, it detracts from discovering these secrets that usually you kind of have to go out of your way or kind of challenging to get to, because sometimes you have to risk a death, or actually most of them involve like risking a death or going to like a pit. Most of them are like you kind of have to know it's there, but when you find out that it's just extra lives, it's kind of like, oh, that was kind of a waste of time. And that ends up kind of like detracting a little from it, but you know, it's still a very nice nostalgic trip. The music is still like super amazing. Only other thing that did feel kind of not right was just playing it with the Pro Controller, or I guess with any of the Switch controllers. Like, using the analog stick works, but because, you know, it's a 2D platformer, I feel like those are definitely way better with the D-pad. And even using the D-pad on the Pro Controller, just because it's positioned a lot lower, like, doesn't feel as intuitive as you would want it to. Like, it works, you could get through. I mean, that's how I played through Celeste. But I would definitely have preferred to have it positioned a little higher. I mean, like, if only Nintendo created some sort of, like, Super Nintendo-shaped module to play this with, that'd be pretty cool. But, I mean,
did you consider the left Joy-Con face buttons?
No, and I wouldn't buy, and I'm pretty sure that the opportunity has passed, but I also wouldn't get available. Oh, they are? Well, regardless, I still wouldn't get Super Nintendo controllers just for this, so. I mean, I'm sure after, like, playing it a lot more, I'll just get used to it. I mean, that's just fine, but, you know, instantly, like, you know, it's not the same as playing with an original controller. But
you don't have an 8-bit controller?
Those are supposed to be really nice.
That might be a nice alternative, because then I could use it for other things too, right? Or at least use it on the computer.
Bluetooth.
Yeah, so
they're so well made that Microsoft is teaming up with them for an official Xbox controller for Project xCloud, which is now officially Game Pass Ultimate.
Well,
interesting.
I guess regardless of the facts, I mean, at least the Super Nintendo. I mean, I at this point, I just hope they release games more often, because like every time I like Donkey Kong Country is like a reason for me to boot that system up. But then, and then after playing that, like sometimes I'll check out some of the other stuff, some of the stuff I never played before, or never
like
even really heard of.
Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Or, or like, you know, or I was playing like Wild Gun the other day, or even the Breath of Fire, just because I heard the name before. You know, like I like that there are things in there for me to dabble with that I've never tried, but they just have to do it more often. Like, I know it just sucks. It sucks, and it makes me really bitter, is knowing that even though they're starting over with their trickle feed, the fact that in the past it was like maybe 2 a month. I don't remember like what the frequency was. Like, they kept decreasing the frequency
weekly. During the Wii days with the Virtual Console, they weekly put out new Virtual Console games. Yep, for years. And then Wii U was like.
But was it like one Super Nintendo, one N64, one NES, or was it just
like... They used to do one... they tried to do one from every system, if I remember correctly.
Well, regardless, I remember...
But that's because they were for sales, so it was a little different.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still paying for this, so...
Yeah, but they're making less money total, because, you know... They could try, like, in a single week, you could spend $20 if you got Mario Kart 64 and something on Super Nintendo and something on NES, and the next week you could spend another $20.
Which kind of brings me to like two issues I have with that. It's like, just give me the option to buy these then. Like,
yeah,
I don't see why they can't do a trickle feed and just have people, you know, people like that are okay with, you know, just having a couple Super Nintendo games every couple months or however frequent it comes out. Because, you know, like, they don't really care about any certain game in particular. It's just another app for them. Like, let that be. That's fine. But for people like me that, you know, are pretty much waiting for certain titles because they know they want to play certain titles on the Switch and not have to dig out the Wii U, the 3DS, the Wii to play these, like, just let us buy them. I mean, I wouldn't mind paying $10 to $15 or whatever just to have the game, especially because I want to be able to have a download version of it. It kind of sucks that I have to be connected to the internet in order to play it. So
what's so bizarre about that is Nintendo literally has that mindset with third parties. Think of all the old games that are being re-released at full
like,
price on Switch. I mean, everything from Episode 1 Racer to Yeah.
Like the Switch pretty much feels like a virtual console in some aspects. I collected so many Neo Geo games, like all the Metal Slugs, and then those other like 1942, 19 whatever year
43.
that is.
43, I think.
Whichever, the two plain ones. There were so many great games that I could just straight up buy, play whenever. There were nice simulations. Like, it was perfect. Like, just do that. But they insist on always going, like, they just like want to go out of their way to make getting their games as inconvenient as possible or as painful as possible.
And what's so weird about that to me is not only do they do that, but they also limit to just the same first three systems. So there was a tweet I saw a few weeks ago that really stuck with me.
Why the heck? If Donkey... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, there was a tweet I saw a few weeks ago that really stuck with me that someone took a screenshot of Super Mario Brothers and said, what you think of when you think 20 years ago. And then next to it, they had a screenshot of Mario Sunshine with what was actually 20 years ago. And I was like, wait a minute. That's crazy. We're old now. But two, like, Nintendo's been milking the same cow of NES, Super Nintendo, N64 since the Wii, and they have not expanded it to include GameCube. They have not expanded it to include Wii. In the meantime, they have like all these other third parties doing that with their games. I mean, there's a rumor right now there's going to be a Tomb Raider collection for Switch of all the recent Tomb Raiders. Not even the PlayStation 1 ones. They're already re-releasing the ones from the reboot as a compilation. And Nintendo's still like, well, we don't know anything past, Super
Nintendo
1996's console. So it's just so weird that I understand that they might do, the Mario remasters and stuff, but that's such a rare thing. And they do, the deluxe editions of Wii U games, but there's like a slice of Nintendo history, GameCube and Wii, that's just MIA, and it's incredibly weird.
I know, it was so frustrating to hear that, like, oh, there is a new Play Controls version of Chibi Robo. Like, it exists, and then we wait, and it just never comes out. It's like that was like the only other chance I think it came out in
Japan, though.
No, it did, but it's not in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm kind of hoping Nintendo's starting to come to their senses, though, because this is a very easy way for them to make money during a time when everything's upended and turbulent.
Exactly. Like, I love playing Mario Party 2 and Smash 64 on the Wii U. It was so convenient. And especially now with the Switch, it's like we have people, well, maybe not right now, but we had people over more often. We had big sessions, especially if we could play online. I mean, don't even put the online. Just let us buy these damn games. But
yeah, like literally, like, we're always talking about, we wish there was a new F-Zero. GX was the best. Like, just release GX. It will do fine right now. Like, it just
I know, like, don't even market it. Just port it over. You will make a profit off of it. You don't. And if you still want to not make a new F-Zero game, then just continue not making it.
And it's so crazy to me because, like, we are standing right now. Paper Mario just came out this weekend, right? We have 0 scheduled first-party games from Nintendo going forward. As far as, if you look at the schedule, they have a bunch of stuff that's TBA and maybe 2020 and 2021. But if you look at the actual release calendar, it is blank. They could totally backfill it with this stuff. It's so bizarre. The one thing that I think is giving me a little bit of hope is they're marketing the Switch Online games a little bigger than usual. Like Donkey Kong, like, not only were they like, oh, it's on Switch Online now, they brought back the classified information brand. Do you remember that from Nintendo Power? There's another like 90s staple, but not really a staple. But seriously, it was like in Nintendo Power for the longest time. They had this long-standing column offering all sorts of like hacks and tricks and cheats for various games. And Nintendo brought back Nintendo Power Array as a podcast, and in that came columns like Player's Pulse and Game Watch. But seeing them bring back classified information as a video series to directly promote games on Switch Online through another angle, versus just saying there's some new games, go play them, gives me the slightest bit of hope that maybe they're starting to wake up to the fact that they are sitting on a treasure trove here and might start acting on it a bit more. I don't think it's necessarily good. Marketing's not the same as the people that are greenlighting the ports, but like, someone at Nintendo is aware that they are sitting on a treasure trove, and they're starting to act on that. And I'm hoping that sort of mindset just continues to flow upward through the hierarchy of Nintendo. Especially because, there's so much Nintendo history that people don't know. Like, there's a younger generation that literally doesn't know this stuff. Like, going back to that classified information video for a sec, there are so many comments on the YouTube video of it where kids were like, LOL, Nintendo's showing us game hacks now, or whoa, I can't believe Nintendo's like telling us this, or like, and to that, it's like crazy of them that Nintendo would like show you how to break their games, but it's what Nintendo used to always do. Like, classified information was one of the original columns of Nintendo Power. And, like, it makes me realize there's this whole chunk of Nintendo that people just don't know about. Like, it goes back to the meme again about, Mario versus Mario Sunshine. It's like, there is a group of kids that grew up after Nintendo Power ended or after they stopped doing classified information with the rise of GameFAQs or whatever. And, like I started subscribing to Nintendo Power 21 years ago. I did the math. 21 years ago, 1999. Christ. And in 21 years, kids were born, became of drinking age. It's like a whole stretch of people that don't know pieces of Nintendo. And obviously classified information is a very small, very, very small example of this. But, like, how many people do you think have played F-Zero X from the N64 in that generation, but maybe would check it out? Or how many people have played the original Paper Mario? They could have led into
that was on the Wii U, though.
Origami King. What?
Original Paper Mario was on the Wii U.
I think you just cut out there. What was that?
There we go.
There we go. You're back. What were you saying about the original? Nintendo's censoring you because they don't like people talking about Paper Mario before.
I got cut out. No, I just said that the original Paper Mario was on the Wii U.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So I guess there are some exceptions, but there's a lot that isn't. Maybe the GameCube era, really. Like, I don't know. It really just feels like it's like that Simpsons one with Skinner where it's like, am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. Like, everything these kids are saying, I'm just like, no, this is not Nintendo. I mean, it is Nintendo now, but they're missing out on all the Nintendo then in terms of games and everything. So, I don't know. I think you're right. I think they're botching it by not doing it. But I do have a question. Actually, Angel, you said Donkey Kong Country 2 is your favorite. Kevin, do you have a favorite?
From NES or
of the Kongs of Country 1, 2, 3.
Country 1 for sure.
What makes you say that? Because it sounded like... Well, actually, yeah, what makes you say that? And Angel, what makes you say 2 by comparison?
I say 1 because just of the nostalgia reasons. I didn't play Donkey Kong Country 2 or 3 nearly as much as I played 1. As a matter of fact, I don't think I finished 2 or 3. But I definitely finished Donkey Kong Country 1.
And Angel, why do you love 2 so much?
I mean, a lot of it is nostalgia. Because, I mean, that was... By the time that game came out, my brother was old enough and able to play games with me. So that was like a game that we were able to pretty much like almost exclusively play cooperatively. Which was really, really awesome. But, I mean, we played 1 and 2 to death. Like, I remember like beating part 1 like multiple times. And also part 2. But what I feel like always edges out part 2 over 1 for me personally, or even part 3, is just that it always felt like I just love the more unified theme I feel for it. I mean, part 1 does have a unified theme, but I feel like part 2 like just really runs with like the pirate, and I don't know, like every single like piece of music I just like love there, like from like the I can't even know like a lot of the names off the top of my head, like Jib Jig, like Disco Train, like Mining Melancholy, freaking Sticker Bush Symphony, and Crocodile Cacophony. Like, those are all just like really, really good tracks. And I think my favorite
alliterated.
Part is
all of them alliterated.
And they also just have like a really good part 2 also just has a really nice difficulty curve. Like, I love how the game already kind of starts with a difficulty that implies, you just beat part 1. We're gonna kind of keep it already at that difficulty that it kind of was towards like the later half of the game, instead of kind of feeling like I'm starting over from the beginning. And like everything just kind of felt like part 1 but more. Like all those issues I had about like those secrets just giving me extra lives, they were all given a purpose in part 2. Like you collect these Krem coins to go into the secret Lost World to get a secret ending against like Captain K. Rool. And I mean, not to mention the story, like just felt nice and kind of made sense. It's like King K. Rool's getting revenge on Donkey Kong after defeating him in the first game, so he kidnaps him and he became a pirate because that's just like what he did. And Dixie Kong, I felt, was just like a really cool inclusion. Like, I mean, I already like Diddy was already my favorite character of the 2 Kong, so giving him a starring role, just like, I just also love that. But Dixie Kong also became really cool. Not to mention the new animal buddies were all really interesting and fun. Like, I love using the snake, the spider, and even now having a playable version of the parrot instead of it just being a flashlight in part 1. And yeah, the final boss battle, besides the music, like the fight itself actually felt like a culmination of everything you had to do up until that point, versus like part 3, I felt like the boss battles kind of went in the other direction. There were like a few that I don't know, like because I played the game in the within the last 10 years, and just like to play it again, and the quality, or at least like it kind of felt like the attention that they gave the bosses just wasn't there as much as it was before. They were just a lot easier. Like, especially, I think the most disappointing thing about that one is just the fact that you fight against Franken K. Rool. That one, like, that boss battle was just ridiculously easy. Like, and I just felt like it was designed by a completely different group of people. Actually, the whole game kind of feels like it was designed by different people. I mean, good or bad. I mean, it's still a great game, but yeah, I think that's why I like part 2 the most. It's just, I think I just also just played it at the perfect time, especially because of the bonding with my brother. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I think, I mean, I actually gave this some thought because I knew once we get into Donkey Kong Country, you had strong feelings. So I was trying to figure out, because for me, I actually do think my favorite is Donkey Kong Country 3.
It's cool that we all like a different one.
Yeah, it kind of is. Now, granted, by the time I got to it, it was also within the last 10 years, actually. I played it on Game Boy Advance back when they dropped the subtitle. So it wasn't Dixie's Double Trouble. It was just 3.
That's even worse, because I remember Dave Wise at least composed some of the music.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
from Donkey Kong Country 3 on the Super Nintendo, but on the Game Boy Advance, like someone else composed it, which they're still fine, but, you know, it's not the same.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, on the Super Nintendo, they took songs he composed at the time of the other 2 and used them in 3, but all the original stuff made for 3 was by someone else. So when they brought it to Game Boy, they only used the original stuff, not the like leftovers, so to speak, or the B-sides, if you will. But yeah, I think why I really like it, I think it's for a similar reason that I actually prefer Mario Galaxy 2 over the original Mario Galaxy, which is like once things were so established by the first 2 games, the devs, whoever they were, there was probably churn, but whoever it was, they were allowed to run a bit more wild with level ideas. Like, ultimately, a lot of the gameplay is the same. You're tag teaming as 2 Kongs, slightly different abilities. You're collecting things. You're fighting bosses. You're finding secrets. But, like, some of the level ideas are kind of out there compared to the first 2. I mean, there's a slow motion level. There's one where you adverse the controls. There's the fact that one of the bosses, like, you're throwing things into the screen at a time when, you know, back when the game first came out, that wasn't so common. There's that one lightning level that was kind of crazy. Like, you know, there's that boss that's a creepy face behind a waterfall I don't really know what that was about, but, like, it was weird and kind of cool and something I feel like they would not put in the first game. And I also thought, so there's, like, that element. But I also thought the overworld was just more interesting because, again, to draw an analogy, one of my favorite, actually my all-time favorite game, Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country's overworld was pretty linear, but then in the third one they opened it up a bit more, and there wasn't necessarily a single path to go down. You could kind of go any which way and discover secrets within the map, and it kind of had that like echoes of Mario World. And I mean, the game wasn't perfect. I'd agree in a heartbeat the music, it wasn't as good or as memorable. The plot for 3 was somehow even more non-existent than the others, although I did think it did a good job of kind of showing, okay, if you go into the northern hemisphere, like away from the jungle, like here's how like nature and industry kind of mashed up with one another. Like that was kind of neat. But I think really it was and actually, to be fair, because the level design was all over the place, I feel like the difficulty and pacing were kind of all over the place. But overall, I feel like Rare Nintendo just got kind of weird and wacky, and I just really love my weird Nintendo. So yeah, that's probably why 3 sticks with me the most, even if it's not necessarily the best, but it's definitely my favorite of the bunch. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of not the point. It's literally some of the things you're saying, you know, in regards to 2 and the differences. But yeah, it's just, I think it's not necessarily the highest quality game, but it's the one that just like stuck with me the longest. So whenever I think of Donkey Kong Country, I always flash back to 3 for some reason. And Kiddy Kong's dumb. I'm just saying, he's dumb, but like it's fine. The game made up for it.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for me to get past Kiddy. I mean, I still did since I still beat the game, but
yeah,
like just the fact that only Dixie was there, and then Diddy and Donkey Kong just come out at the a lot of it did feel like an afterthought, but there were
it was very much us. There were spin-off that got a number.
Yeah, there were some interesting levels, and I mean the overworld was kind of cool. Like it was cool how you had to upgrade your vehicle so you could go to the next area. Although like the overworld was still, there was like a few places you can go to that were kind of exploratory, but for the most part it's like go to this area and then bam, you're in a standard map just like you would in any Donkey Kong game. and then when you beat that game, you go
back
to the boat
it's more
area.
The connection. Yeah, it's more the connections of how you go from world to world. You're right, than the actual individual levels. But that still give it more flexibility than like the past games. And like to be fair, some of that, because they were so like off the wall with it, like there's weird stuff. Like, you know, you're in one level and suddenly you're in a snow world, and then the next level in the same world is like underwater tropical. It's like how this thematically makes zero sense. Like there was definitely a lot of like slap togetherness, but I feel like the slap togetherness allowed them to do some more ridiculous stuff and get away with it. I mean, to go back to that waterfall boss, like what was that? Why was there a face behind the waterfall? I don't even remember. It was a slug, right? Like what was that about? Or actually, the boss where you throw into the screen, wasn't he like an angry snowman or something? He like maniacally laughs at you or something. Like I don't know. Like none of those made sense.
I feel like that gameplay style didn't really mesh well with Donkey Kong, but I mean, Part 2 has some weird mishmash too. Like I remember, like the second area or the second world, you kind of first you start off in a giant beehive, and then you go into like a carnival, which is just like one of the most like iconic places, I guess, for me. Just because, you know, you're riding on a roller coaster and the music is kind of like all, you know, theme park and fanfare, and then you're racing a ghost through a library, and I mean they're all kind of kooky in their own way. 2 and 3 definitely kind of go off the rails.
The one thing I kind of wish that series continued to do, and the fact that literally, but the fact that Donkey Kong Country Returns and its sequel didn't do this as much, I kind of like the idea that you never played as the exact same characters twice. Like they transferred over a person each time, but they left one behind, so you kind of kept getting these new people and gameplay ideas.
I did like that. I didn't like Kitty. I feel like they should have done.
Yeah, I didn't like Kitty, but I like
give the design
fine,
another go over. But
I mean, Kitty. Well, not only that, but Kitty was literally a walking barrel. I mean, like essentially his thing you could do with him is throw him like he was a barrel. But it's like, but there are barrels. Why do you need to throw him?
Well, no, so you could do that to everybody.
No, but wasn't that his big? No, oh no, he could roll. That's right, he could roll.
Everyone can roll.
No, what am I thinking of? What's his special thing?
His thing is that, one, he has a ground pound that no one else has, and he can also bounce on water for some reason. Well,
that goes to show you how inconsequential his gameplay mechanics were.
Because most people didn't use them because they just like, I'm just going to use Dixie, which is kind of always the case. Anytime you have like Donkey Kong and some other Kong, like you just kind of always go with the other one. But yeah.
And to be fair to Rare, they tried with Donkey Kong 64, like having five Kongs and having them all be like different characters you rotate between was literally the evolutionist idea. I just kind of wish Retro, when they started doing Returns and Tropical Freeze, sort of followed it through, or at least brought back those banana birds. Those were funny. Do you remember those? I think they were in 3, maybe they were in 2, but they're basically half-peeled bananas. Oh, okay, because they're half-peeled bananas that also somehow look like birds and are fully like alive birds, which again makes zero sense, but it's great.
Yeah, they were weird.
Oh, that's right. They weren't 3 because you gave them to the bears or whatever. When
no.
Bear Brothers. Didn't you?
No, you take coins to the bears. The banana birds, you have to collect them all and take them to this like sanctuary in the sky thing where their mom is trapped, and then their mom is like a giant version of them, and then she finishes off Frank and K. Rool. But yeah.
Oh.
Wow. It's been a while, I'm guessing.
It's my favorite game, but let me tell you, half the things that I know about are wrong, apparently. But yeah, so I guess unless there's
heart's in the right place, though.
My heart's in the right place. I know what I liked about it, and I glossed over what I didn't. Which you know, that's true for all nostalgia. You remember the good and forget that. Like if you look back on the Wii U right now, like you're like, oh yeah, it had some droughts, but I think you'd mostly think about the good games it had, not the endless emptiness in between. So like that's just nostalgia. But yeah, I guess that's what we've been playing, and I guess that's what's new with Switch Online. I think like those, unless there's anything else you guys have been playing that you want to talk about, I think we kind of transitioned to news.
I was kind of playing Ring Fit Adventure.
Oh, right. Oh, well, congratulations on finally getting it.
Thank you.
How's that going? I know you've tried a long time. Go on.
I don't know.
So how often
why
do you play
I listened to. I don't know why. I played it like twice, and ever since I started, it's been a week because I am too terrified to keep going with that thing. I will die. So, I swear to God.
Elaborate.
What difficulty? What level are you doing?
Level 30. I knew.
Oh, see, I'm doing like 14 when I do it.
Like, I knew I was out of shape. I did not know I was this out of shape.
You are doing the hardest level. You can work your way up. The game encourages you to work your way up, not start at the top.
But ever since Angel told me that, like, well, ever since I started at level 30 and knock it down, it's just going to feel like cheating. It's like,
because he's a madman. Like, don't trust his opinion on this. The game, which has fitness advice, is saying start small.
There is a big payoff, though, because then eventually, when you do, after doing one attack, you'll be like, cool, I think I actually have enough energy to do another attack, just because of how many reps they make you do. And then and then eventually you get to a point, because, you know, it is an RPG, you get enough modifiers. Like, I'm at the point right now where I'm going back to older levels just to kind of 100% them. And I'm actually able to, like, kill all the enemies on the screen with, like, a single attack, just because I do that much damage. And you get, like, you know, clothing and stuff, and you add shakes on top of all your modifiers, so you get to attack twice in a row, and all your damage is doubled, and you get, like, double experience per fight. So, like, there's definitely... It gets there, but I feel like the first 3 to 4 worlds are definitely hell.
Which is why they want you to ramp up, not come down.
No, man. Now I'm committed.
It's more satisfying this way.
Well, but the problem is, didn't you say you only did it for like a week and now you're scared to do it again? Isn't that backfiring?
Well, Drago, that's his name, right? Drago?
Yeah.
I remember Angel telling me, like, oh, just wait until you get to the bosses, because I got to Drago and, like, all right, let me do a squat to see how much of his health. It does nothing, dude.
Like literally like a pixel sliver.
Yeah, a pixel sliver. And I was like, excuse me? I have to do... Not only do I have to do 30 of them just to, like, use another move, but it barely even touches him. I started cheating on that Drago boss fight, and it still hurt like hell.
You could start at like
wait
level
until he gets
15 or so, and then do it properly and work up your stamina.
No, I'm committed.
All right.
I will eventually.
I applaud the commitment. I will give you props for that. But you are also, like Angel, a madman. So
yeah, I'm just killing myself at this point.
Have you played it again, Jason? After that first
Not
week?
Recently. No, I played it for more than the first week, but not recently. I played it for the first 8 days. No, I played it for more than a week, but I haven't recently. I wanted to kind of get back into it once the quarantine started, but then I realized I could also just go walk outside, and it's 2 birds, 1 stone. So, because the thing is, when you're cooped up inside, getting out. I know, but I'm in okay shape-ish, barely, sort of. But I should get back into it. I have the ring con right over here. What?
You're a path of least resistance kind of guy.
I am very much so, yes. So the path of least resistance is just not to use the resistance band at all. Yeah. But I do walk every day, so I got some cardio going.
I walk every day, too, from my room to the fridge.
I walk like 1.5 miles to 2 miles around my neighborhood up a hill, which is better than the fridge. But when I was working back in the office, my exercise used to be whatever it took to get to my car in the parking lot. So I'm better now than I was then.
Interesting.
But I'm not ring fit good yet. Maybe I should get back into it.
Sure.
I, for some reason, have my Switch in the hottest room in my house, and that's where I would be doing ring fit.
Perfect.
And that
It'd be like a sauna.
It was not perfect. It was torture, especially because it was like November, October when it came out, so we had the heat on in the house. So that room, like, I'd be doing and I'd be running, and then like the heat would come on, like, and the vents right above me, and I'm like, why am I doing this like this? And I know I could just use tabletop mode, but I didn't really do that for unclear reasons.
Right.
But yeah, maybe I'll get back into it. Not at level 30. I'll stick with my 15-ish or so. But yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I guess that's what we've been playing. And we spent a lot of time talking about Switch Online. That was one of a few small sort of self-contained announcements that Nintendo made recently. The second is the very cool, very out of nowhere Lego NES set. A novel concept in a good sense. A $2,646 brick set that lets you. And yeah, seriously, it lets you build out of Legos a model of an NES, its controller, a cartridge, and a CRT TV. And what's crazy about the TV is that, for those who haven't seen it, it will display a moving Mario level. There's a little crank on the side that when you turn it will cycle the level by and move Mario up and down on a little wand of sorts that simulates him jumping through the level. plus like the amount of detail and everything's just really cool. Like you'll be able to insert a Lego cartridge into the Lego console. The back of the TV is detailed down to like the composite AV cord plugs. The controller is exactly life size, even if the rest is a little smaller. It's really, really cool. But Angel, you touched on something when you made that joke. What do you think of the price? It's $229.
I mean, initially I thought like, well, it's Lego. I mean, of course it's gonna cost that much. But there's a channel I've been watching recently that just kind of got recommended to me by YouTube, and it's just like some guy that just reviews Lego sets. And I'll get into this after we're done talking about the NES set, but he's pretty much reviewed the entire Nintendo set, which is why I brought him up. But he also talked about this set, and when it came to the price, I guess as someone that is an avid Lego collector, he was like, "Oh, it's actually a little cheaper than I expected." So I guess, so I guess in the Lego community, it's a very fair price, but to people that normally don't, I guess it's definitely on the expensive end. It's almost like you're paying half a console, but.
Yeah, because if you translate, someone did this. If you translate the NES's original MSRP to dollars, like today's dollars, it would be the same price as the Lego set. But that's an actual functional brand new NES.
How much did a brand new NES cost back then?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I think it was like 170 or something.
It was 90
plus the CRTV.
Or no? Well, the CRTV doesn't work, Kevin. It's not a real CRTV.
Well, yeah, but like
I know.
This isn't a real.
Good point.
Yeah,
good
okay.
Point.
If you want to put it all together, touche.
I guess a CRTV that size.
If you really want to do a real cost like analysis, if you want to do a real cost analysis, apparently another thing I saw was it costs roughly 0.08 cents per brick for the 2,600 plus bricks required to build this. And when you put it in those terms, it really doesn't sound bad. You're paying less than a penny.
Personally, how much? $229.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a lot to me, honestly. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% buying it. I'm just waiting for the pre-order to go live on Lego's website because, like, interestingly, Lego's website and physical stores will be the only place you can buy this thing until 2021. It's not getting the wider release that the Mario set is.
Well, if there's one thing that Jason does finish, it's Legos. I can definitely.
It's true. Thanks to you giving it to me, I have the Lego Wally over my shoulder here, and
did Lego Dimensions come out on Switch?
No, it was already dead by then. It was on Wii U.
It didn't?
It's on Wii U or Wii.
Oh, you're right. It was a Wii U thing.
Yeah.
We still have those four sets hanging on our wall.
Like the ones you got for like dirt cheap at like a Hastings or something?
No, we got them literally for $1 each at the dollar store.
I was pretty close. Hastings isn't much better than a dollar store.
Yeah, we got the Portal one, the Sonic one, which apparently is the only place you get a Sonic minifigure, and the Homer and the Bart one. But
but yeah, you're right, Angel. Legos are one of the few things I actually finish, and I do on some level. I think get why this one maybe isn't getting the wide distribution, and that's.
I'm sure you also finish them because if you don't, you leave a mess, and I doubt you will want to decide.
There's also that. No, but I think part of it is like something like this is like you don't really. You're buying a thing that isn't made, and but you're buying the finished product, so you have to actually spend the time to make it. And like I think that's partly what. Well, I have my Labo piano and gun sitting right under my desk here, actually. But yeah, it's a similar idea. Like what? You just get sheets of cardboard and do nothing with it.
Isn't that similar? Isn't that a similar idea with like video games? It's like, oh, here's this thing that hasn't been beaten. And you still don't beat games.
So I'm going to wrap this episode up a little early. It's been great. No, but you raise a point. I think the difference is like because I'm buying them with the intention. Labo maybe less so. Lego more so. I'm buying it with the intention of ultimately displaying it. And I think this is probably why they're selling them on the website only is because this is not like a kid's toy in the way the Mario set is.
NES
I don't know. No, because that's on my entertainment shelf. It'll probably go next to Wally or something. But like I'm buying it with the intention of having this cool built thing. And it's not necessarily a toy. Like Labo's an interactive toy. Video games, you could argue, an interactive thing, but these are like display pieces that you have to just put together. So I think that's why it's only on the Lego website and store, not for sale in like Toys R Us, or they don't exist anymore. But you know what I mean, because it is a very different audience. Like this is much more intricate. Like I have multiple coworkers who are adults. I work with adults, and they build quote unquote adult Lego sets all the time, and like they're not huge Nintendo fans, but they're big Lego fans, and all of them express interest in getting this. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, that kind of makes sense because it's like a model kit. Like you don't build a model kit, You don't buy a model kit to not build it. Like video games, you can make that argument, but you are getting something out of the value in the process. You're not necessarily getting something out of a half-finished Lego NES, except a time sink, which I guess if you want. But, yeah, like even more so, like that's why I think this is more so up my eye than the Lego Mario set, because that is more of a video game. That is more of a toy, but like something like the 600-piece Wall-E that, Angel, you gave me, like, I don't know, like I didn't even play Legos a ton as a kid. Like it was to my mom's benefit. She kept buying sets because she wanted an excuse to play with them, thinking I would play with them too, but then I never did, so she just did. But, like, I never played with them as a kid, but as an adult, I like playing with them as having something to put on my shelf. It's like an accomplishment almost. So, I guess my point is that I think it's very smart how Nintendo and Lego have done this sort of, like, two-pronged approach.
Jason can finish something.
I can. There's a picture of the Wall-E on my Instagram from, like, 4 years ago, if no one believes me. But, yeah, what I was trying to say is I think, like, this two-pronged approach that Nintendo and Lego are doing, like, to approach turning their IPs into Lego is really smart. Because, like, the thing with the Mario video games and Nintendo games in general is that it's easy to enjoy them at any age in the same way a Pixar or Disney movie can be enjoyed. But with Lego, it's a little harder because it requires the physicality, right? And the dexterity and the imagination, depending on what you're doing. So, of course, there's some overlap. Like, it's probably why you could put the Lego Mario on top of the Lego NES, and it will do the sound effects as you crank the little CRTV model. But I think Lego and Nintendo realized that there are two approaches that can't really be compromised with one another. One is this very intricate thing, one is this more playful thing, and there's not a one-size-fits-all. So the fact that they're kind of doing them in parallel and then launching them on the same day, I actually think that's very smart of them. So props to them for that. And they got me to buy one when I wasn't planning to buy any of the Mario stuff. So, although to be fair, Angel, you said that you were watching a video of the Lego Mario set, and it seems to have some intricacies of its own, huh?
Yeah, I've definitely grown to appreciate that set a lot more since its initial release and first few trailers, because I felt like it relied too heavy on your own imagination, in the sense that it was pretty much no different than just role-playing with action figures in your head and you're holding them in your hand. It's like, I wanted more parameters and limitations that kind of force you to actually play with the set. Like, and maybe it's just a me thing. Like I'm thinking like, oh, does the instructions say how high Mario is allowed to jump in order for it to count as a proper jump? But, you see people just like jumping around like willy-nilly. Like, oh, there's Mario doing like a triple jump that goes like clear across the whole board. It's like, is that legal? It's like, I don't know. But
is that legal?
No, is that legal? Is that like a legal move?
No, I knew what you meant. It's just like,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, they come out in August. They're like pretty much upon us, and like after seeing like this video series by this guy that we linked his review, because he got review copies of every single Lego set for the Mario series, which is kind of nuts. So I've literally seen every single set like in action, like the Toad House, the Bowser's Castle, the Fire Trap, the the Poke Plant, like all these really interesting ones, and they all have some interesting modules that do kind of have the limitations that I was hoping for. Like there's one where essentially you play Mario on, essentially it's like a platform that's extremely wobbly, and you have to very slowly like nudge him across, and the video definitely shows you how like sensitive it is. And as he's moving, Mario, like, he'll play specific music because every piece has a certain tile. And as he's moving, you'll collect your coins, and he falls over very easily, so you have to be very careful. Then there's other modules where you have to place Mario on another platform, and as you rotate him, he swings like a hammer of sorts and knocks the cactus plant over. Or even like fighting Bowser, which has its own kind of interesting mechanism where you have to stand Mario, like, I guess, on another platform that as you rotate him left and right, he essentially shakes the platform Bowser is on ever so slightly, that he starts sliding forward, and you want to keep doing that over and over until he completely slides forward and falls onto his belly, which then exposes his back and lets you jump on him 7 times to destroy him. And I've seen, and I guess lately he's been creating actual obstacle courses that are, designed for speed and time, because you do only have a minute to complete these. And the goal is just to, start the time, go around, get as many coins as you can before you go back to the flagpole where you finish, and then Mario tells you the score at the end. And if you don't cheese it and you actually try to do everything properly, there's even like some quote unquote keys that you can set up. So like, oh, before you touch the flagpole, you have to collect the 1, 2, and 3 key, and you can have them hidden all over the map in these special kind of modules where if you touch a lever that Mario's next to, it'll like lift up a palm tree and there's a key under that. You know, there's like some, you could almost kind of replicate like a Super Mario 64 style level, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Is it enough to get me to buy it? No, not even close. But it does at least make me. But it does at least make me go like, all right, it's. I won't say it's dumb. I'll just say it's pretty cool and unique. It just makes me appreciate the idea and the effort that went behind designing it this way. Like, I'm actually glad they at least tried, and maybe that's also because seeing this NES Lego replica, at least like reassured me like, all right, at least we're still doing some other more traditional sets and not just forcing in this thing that no one asked for, that is still cool, but no one asked for.
Well, half the time Nintendo does stuff is because people don't ask for it. They just kind of
don't even get us started with doing things. Just reminded of like Ziplash and how they're like, oh, we want to support this franchise, buy this game, but does that tell them that we want a 2D style Chibi Robo because it sold so well, or does it tell them, I guess, nothing because, or if people didn't buy it, it's like, oh, it must be because they don't like the franchise. It's like, no, because we didn't want that from Chibi Robo. Nintendo.
The best thing that came out of Ziplash was the Chibi Robo amiibo. I think pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but you know, I do think
these Martha's kids are gonna go bananas for it. But
I think you're right. I think like Nintendo, they spent 4 years developing this Lego Super Mario set, and I think it does show that they really did think through an experience that's different from just what we want Legos to be. Is different from what like Legos tend to be. It really is kind of like a mashup of Lego and like Mario Maker, and that is pretty cool. And I think for everything that Nintendo seems to be doing right with these Lego sets, like both of them, NES and Mario, I do have a bone to pick, and this is something that's been bothering me beyond just Legos, but they're perhaps the best example of it. There is, as far as I have noticed, zero cohesion whatsoever in Nintendo's activities lately. Like these Lego sets, they were developing for 4 years. So whether originally intended to be or not, they're coming out on Mario's 35th anniversary, right? And at the same time, Nintendo this week tweeted that Hasbro is releasing a new Mario-themed Jenga set and a new Mario-themed Monopoly set. The Monopoly one is literally called the Super Mario Celebration, and it features art from all the various games over the years, from 8-bit to now. Even Mario in his Flood backpack is on there, which I don't know if that's a hint of Mario Sunshine HD or just they found some old zip file with that art. But nonetheless, like, you have all these Mario happenings. You have the rumors of the 3D Mario collection for Switch. You have Mario 3D World Remastered rumor for Switch. You have the entirety of, the Super Nintendo World when it was on track. It was all Mario themed. And you have a brand new Mario spinoff out this weekend, like we were saying, Paper Mario. And there is nothing, no 35th anniversary branding on any of these. No badge, no emblem. It just feels
I thought
off.
You tried harder on the Euro Luigi.
Yeah, and like Nintendo did such a good job with it for the 25th anniversary of Mario and for the 30th anniversary of Mario. In the 25th they did like the Mario collection on Wii. The 30th anniversary they did the Mario Anniversary Amiibo, among other things. And
they just slapped the SNES ROM onto a disc.
But they still did something, and it was branded, and it had that symbol, and that symbol was used for all the Mario marketing that year. The box was really nice, and that little booklet, and the CD. Anyway, but my point is, like, they did some original stuff and some license fare, and it was all billed as a celebration, and they're doing that again right now, but they can't seem to muster up a logo. Like, I feel like I get this may seem silly.
Is what they're wrenching.
I don't know. It must have on some level, but like think about it from the brand partner's perspective, because they have an opportunity to be part of like this much broader marketing campaign, cross promotional tie-in opportunities, and they have this opportunity to get instant collector's eye stats by just getting a little logo. Like, there's a reason that so many brands do this, right? Like, Konami literally, on Super Bomberman R, when it came out on the Switch in 2017, I don't know if you guys remember, it had a 22nd anniversary icon for Bomberman, as if that's a milestone that anyone cares about. But I think what makes me so, like, passionate about this point, I guess, is that, like, to your question, Kevin, all signs were pointing to Nintendo doing some sort of big unified anniversary thing before coronavirus. Like, arguably, this is the biggest anniversary year the franchise was ever going to have. There's those reports that Nintendo's going to do an anniversary event in LA during E3. At their fingertips, they have all these games and services that they could do stuff on. Mario Kart Tour, Super Mario Run. They could have done something with Super Mario Maker 2. Like, fans even discovered there is a dormant Super Mario 35th Twitter account at Super Mario 35th, which was registered in March, so right before the pandemic. And while you can't see who owns it, if you do a password recovery prompt, it shows a domain that looks identical to the one used for Smash and Splatoon's Twitters, which is nintendo.co.jp. It looks like it's blacked out, but you can see enough of it. It just seems like even if Corona got in the way, this is a huge missed opportunity, because you're right. Maybe they can't do the event because the pandemic. Maybe they can't have some of the stuff. They can't open the theme park, but like, a Twitter account isn't affected by this. In-game events aren't affected by this. All they're doing is leaving their partners kind of out to dry. Like, it's not like Nintendo had to hand deliver a 35th anniversary logo to Lego or Hasbro. They could have done all this virtual. They could have done exactly what they did now, but just made a website that has it all like in one place, open the Twitter account to follow for updates, and then just announce things through that. They've done so many Mario Lego tweets and so many like other things that they could have easily just package those together or put an emblem on every single one. Just indicate there's something going on. It's just really weird to me that they're just like so haphazard, and I don't know how being stuck at home necessarily affects that, since it's all digital to begin with. And it's not like they had to make a video, but I don't know. It just struck me as really weird that they have more going on this anniversary than the last few. And as you said, Angel, your Luigi had more attention, but it like, I don't, like on some level, it's not even just it's like this is indicative of a bigger thing, because it's not even just like a silly badge on a box. Like, I'd say more generally, there's just a lack of cohesion in how news is being presented to fans. Like, to give you another example, let's look at the announcements of the Joker and Hero amiibo, right? It was 3 weeks ago that Smash Bros. Producer Masahiro Sakurai did his Min Min video and revealed that Joker and Hero are coming. He promised news soon on a release date. Yeah, baby. Yeah, are you buying it? Actually, first things first, are you getting the Joker amiibo?
Absolutely.
Or have you pre-ordered it?
No, I didn't even know you could pre-order it.
Exactly my point. Thank you. Yeah, so they announced at the end of June.
You got me.
It's already sold out.
I got you. I don't think it's sold out, but it's been available for a few days.
I don't trust you anymore after that. You did that on purpose.
I did it. I honestly thought you might have known.
I'm literally looking at it right now. It's sold out.
Is it?
What?
So here's my point.
Wait. No. Well, no one cares about Hero. I'm sorry. The Joker one is sold out?
Everywhere?
Yep.
Are you serious?
No, it's available.
Oh, okay.
$15.99.
Yeah, well, that's the standard amiibo price these days.
I know.
Really? But here's my point. And honestly, Kevin, I thought there's a 50-50 chance you did pre-order it. But here's the point I'm getting at.
Wait, so somebody sent me a pre-order link. And I was kidding about Angel. Hero. I know a lot of people like Hero.
Angel.
I know Angel likes
send him a pre-order link. Oh, yeah, he does like Hero. But, yeah, it's my point I'm getting at is, so end of June, he does a Min Min video, and he says, stay tuned for more on Joker. Fast forward to July 14th. 23 days later. Not that long later. And Nintendo just casually tweets out the equivalent of, oh yeah, these amiibo are out on October 2nd, by the way. And put a 10-second, like, sizzle reel GIF on it. So, like, here's...
Well, if you recall,
here's the thing.
I mean, when the Smash Bros. Presentation aired, he had recorded that way before.
In May.
He obviously...
But they could dub it in. They could dub it in. It's not that hard. Like, here's what I'm saying.
But then the Japanese viewers will know, like, wait a minute. He didn't say
No,
that.
They don't have to dub it in. He could just say they're coming soon and just on the screen put October 2nd. Like, they could have given him...
No, I know, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But
should I pre-order two of these? One to keep in the box and one to...
Open?
Yeah, one to open.
Well, Kevin, considering you just gave away all the amiibo you kept in a box, shout out to our Twitter winner, Tyler... I don't know.
I finally. I'm sorry about the delay. I finally shipped it out. It's going to come to you in a computer case box, and it looks kind of sketchy. So,
but you promise it's not a bomb. It's just 15
I
amiibo.
promise. Yeah, it's just wrapped in a bunch of tape. Don't worry.
It's legit. The wires hanging out are nothing to worry about.
Yeah, don't. It smells a little like gasoline, but that's because I got some on my pants when I was. It's a long story.
But yeah, it is funny that right after you gave away all those amiibo, just to get rid of them, you're now like, oh great, more amiibo, time to buy two of them.
Just literally one.
Well, I know, but you're buying two of one.
Well, that's the question. Should I keep one in the box? And then
I don't think you should. I don't think you should, but that's just me. Because I think in 3... Actually, yes, you should, and in 3 years, we'll give it away on Twitter when you want to get rid of it.
Sure. I'll order 2.
Okay. Sweet. But anyway, no, that was my point, like, about the Sakurai thing is, like, they could have just said the date. Like, I get that maybe... Yeah, I mean, like, the Smash video had 2 million views. So why not announce a date there to people who aren't paying as close of attention? Like, I'm sure one could argue that Sakurai recorded... You know, you were kind of making that point, Angel, back in May, and Nintendo didn't know their production timeline by then. But, like, you can insert that. Or, like, better yet, like...
Just
save it for another
Nintendo,
video.
my son.
But I mean, like, save it for another video. Because, like, they could have... There's going to be other Smash videos. There's going to be a Treehouse Live, literally within days of the tweet. Combine it. Because the problem is, like, you have viewership who may, if the date was announced then and there, hop over to Best Buy or Amazon and buy the thing on the spot. If you say check back later and then just casually tweet out at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night, is that same 2 million people going to be like, right, I need to get that? Not necessarily. And
so are you saying
up the charts anymore.
That you're smarter than their marketing team, their team of professionals?
I'm saying, yes, I have no marketing degree, but I am smart. No, what I'm actually saying is I think, like... I
mean,
to sum up think of
it that way.
I think...
Say you had, like, for whatever reason, you actually had... the opportunity to just straight up ask them only that question. Is there any possible answer that you can think of that would actually be satisfactory, or you actually don't think of there's anything that they could say that would be like, oh, okay.
I'm sure there's a reason, but I think the point I'm getting at, I'm sure there is a reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there's a reason. But I think my bigger point, like why I'm on my little soapbox right now, is I think this is a symptom of a bigger problem with the industry right now, which is things are just being stretched too thin. Like, it was only a month ago when we had our E3 wannabe episode, right? Where we were essentially, like, we had all the trimmings of what would be a typical E3. We had a big presentation, we had some first-party news, we had indie news, and it worked, and it was followable because the gaming community held things relatively close together. So something like Summer Game Fest, which essentially is curating and collecting all that's happening, you were able to go there and get close to a one-stop shop as a more casual consumer of gaming news, perhaps, because it was somewhat close together. But in the time since, things have spread out more. Like, did you know there was a Japanese / anime game presentation with Axis Games, NIS, Spike Chunsoft in late June called New Game Plus? Yep. Okay, you did. Angel, did you? But before I told you about it last night. Okay, yeah. And then that had a solid dozen or so Switch games pop up. If they did that, let's say, back-to-back with something during our E3 wannabe period, I bet you a lot more people would have been aware of it.
Wannabe 3.
Wannabe 3. Yeah, I can't believe we botched that title.
We. You keep saying we.
Me. I did save it. I put it in the tweet, ultimately. So I kind of brought it back. But anyway, but yeah, so like you knew that one, Kevin, but like I didn't know about it till after the fact. Angel didn't know about it till I told him about it yesterday. Like, if this was during E3, all those games, because so many eyeballs would be going to those publications covering gaming that 1 or 2 weeks, it would have gotten more attention. It would have gone beyond its niche, I guess you could say. Or like the inverse of that is like, Angel, you tipped me off to the fact that there's a Shantae re-release happening on Game Boy Color. Like an actual... You want to explain it, basically, what it is?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, Limited Run Games is actually releasing a replica cartridge that works of the Game Boy Shantae. The Game Boy game Shantae, which is pretty crazy. And another game called Extreme Sports, I believe. But
yes, with an X, no E, just an X.
I mean, it's definitely not every day you get a dev like actually trying to release like an official cartridge. And I mean, I obviously didn't get into Shantae until the DSiWare days when Risky's Revenge came out. But I don't know.
Did you ever play the original?
I played it. I know I did because I want to say it was released on. If it was released on DS, I did. If not, then I guess I haven't. But
okay. Well, it's coming to Switch, if that helps any. They're also doing a digital and physical Switch release, from my understanding.
Yeah, which is cool.
I looked into it. Yeah, but like, I do remember. It's interesting because I remember Shantae was like such a. I think it came out after the Game Boy Advance by like a year, but it was still on Game Boy Color, so it like did not sell well. It did not get a big run. Yeah, and like it goes for like thousands of dollars on eBay now. Like you can get a sealed copy for like $10,000 or something.
Damn.
And now, I mean, now they're kind of undermining that value a little, but yeah, it's cool that like I think if once they bring Shantae to Switch, I think all the Shantaes are available on Switch in some capacity, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we're getting the director's cut. I think it's of Risky's Revenge. And yeah, I mean, the newest one, Seventh Seventh, came out not too long ago. I still have to play through that one. So,
and Hatching Heroes already on Switch. Yeah,
I mean, what can't WayForward do? They've been doing pretty good lately.
Well, a lot of people say Bakugan, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's call it a foreshadow. No, but Shantae Breakover. The thing I was getting at here, real quick, is
foreshadow?
Not really. It's more just a tease. It's literally, it was a
illusion,
tease.
if anything.
It was like the nightly news being like, tonight on the news there was a murder. Hear more about it later. Yeah, it's like, well, that's the lead. You gave me the lead. I don't need anything more. But yeah, Shantae. Before we go to Bakugan, real quick, the point I was trying to get at, which Shantae was a good example of, is that news, in my opinion, is just so stretched out. Because like limited run games, they do that presentation during E3 week normally, and it gets caught up in all that like churn of people looking at E3 news. It was like this past week, and I had no idea. And usually I'm on top of this stuff. And like we collectively cover gaming for a podcast on a bi-weekly basis, and there's stuff that now we are missing. There's no real structure to anything. Like everyone's just doing their own thing, and as a result, it feels like the stuff that's niche perhaps stays more niche. The stuff that's big still gets some attention. Like if this was E3 or even wannabe E3, when like IGN, Games Radar, Guerrilla Collective, all of them were doing their own shows at once, you'd at least have like a hub where you can go see all the news, big and small. But like, what's going to compel an average Joe to know to check IGN to see like, oh, there's a new Shiren the Wanderer dungeon crawler on Switch, or like Trails of Cold Steel 4 is coming to Switch in 2021. Like normally those would just be within the other headlines, but if they're by themselves, these kind of smaller, kind of dependent on the bigger guys game announcements are just getting buried. Like maybe it's just me, but I know Jeff Keighley was doing like kind of a Q&A on Twitter, and he was saying Summer Game Fest, if they do it again, they might need to tighten it up a little because it is very stretched out. But I don't know, like, are you guys feeling like you're missing things, or things are like sneaking up on you, or are you kind of cool with how it is this year?
I feel like some things have been sneaking up. I mean anything that would come from a, I guess, major developer that I follow, I feel I've been able to keep up with. But other than that, like a lot of the smaller titles, I'm definitely having to go back and be like, oh, this got announced? I had no idea.
Yeah, like that alpaca soccer game.
That was saw. Super random, yeah. Which looks really cool.
Yeah, but that's like one of those things that like it would have been in like the indie showcase at E3, like at that booth, and it would have gotten extra attention. But now it's just like they're tweeting it and they're hoping it just happens to catch on with some people, which sucks. And I think the other like downside of the current setup. Well, Kevin, you didn't even get to say anything yet. How are you feeling? Are you cool with this, or do you wish it was a little more organized?
Definitely more organized, because just the amount of the amount of like shows or presentations is just too much to keep up with. Like you said, you have the Guerrilla Collective, you had New Game Plus, you had Devolver Show, you just had the PC Gamer Show. You have Summer Game Fest, which doesn't like even include any of the stuff that I just mentioned.
Yeah, which is weird because they were supposed to be the one catch-all. Yeah,
right? It's like it's too spread out. I don't know. This if everybody talks about like, oh, after this year E3's done, E3's over with. I feel like now more than ever we actually need E3.
Yeah, I agree, because I was really worried that this would be like you'll need E3. I think maybe E3 as a physical thing is done, but the idea of having everyone coordinate and kind of cram all their stuff together, I think is actually more crucial than ever. Yeah, because I think the other downside of the current setup is that because every game needs to get whatever attention it can, so many reveals, big and small, are being hyped as these mysteries that you have to find out what they are by tuning in at a later time. Like, I feel like practically all of Ubisoft Forward last weekend was basically that. Like, they trickled ahead of time, quick glimpses of things. Like, they showed Far Cry 6, and like, look, Far Cry 6 is going to star... Oh, God, what's his name? Gus from Breaking Bad.
Giancarlo Esposito?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's going to star him. And then, so they tease that out, and they're like, tune in Sunday. And then you tune in Sunday, and the reveal...
Well, it got leaked.
It is really cool that he's in it.
Got no, but I mean... They had to tease it out.
Yeah, so they did like a 6-second thing, and then on Sunday, all they did was, here's 2.5 more minutes of the same thing. Like, they didn't show much of anything. No real gameplay. It was just kind of like, hey, he's in it.
Yeah,
and
I think, like... event was
and like, exactly. And I think the most, like, egregious example of this whole, like, they're trying to, like, make things hype when they're not and thus making it even worse, is we already said it, Bakugan. Like Nintendo themselves with the tease of a way forward game using a new partner IP. And before we dive too deep into this,
I thought it was going to be anything else.
What? Yeah, everyone did. And I feel like I should put a disclaimer. It's not Nintendo's fault that fans run wild with speculation and set themselves up for disappointment. What I do think Nintendo should be mindful of, though, is that they need to, like, if they need to, like, hype an announcement like this at any level when something like Paper Mario, arguably a much bigger game, was just randomly tweeted out one morning, people are going to expect something on that scale or larger. They are creating their own hierarchy that is established literally by just their actions, especially now when they don't have directs. So, like, you can't really, like, Nintendo, you can't just kind of willy-nilly be like, this one will be a reveal, this one will be a surprise, because you are, well, it's not your fault that fans start making assumptions, but you are sort of putting precedents in place and then sort of going against them, which is what causes people to be upset. And so for those who don't know the full story, Nintendo held a Treehouse live stream last week to focus on Paper Mario: The Origami King. It was honestly like the best look at the gameplay itself up to that point. Like, I think it both sold a number of people on it and also confirmed to some other people that maybe this wasn't their speed. You know, maybe the 1,000-Year Door diehards, this isn't what they want. But I digress. The point is, they do this Treehouse Live presentation. Nintendo promised, and I quote, a first reveal and gameplay for a title and a franchise new to developer way forward. And immediately, people's imaginations ran wild. People were hoping it'd be a 2D Metroid. Wario Land was trending nationwide on Twitter within just a couple hours, which, to be clear, like, Wario Land is the correct choice for what Nintendo IP way forward should make. I mean, the pirate theme is right there. Shantae already exists. Captain Syrup in Wario Land, like, it's perfect. So I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Considering all their games for the most part are Metroidvanias, Metroid does make more sense, but...
Nah, I think they could do Wario Land. I'd love for them to do it. They also do hand-drawn animation, like Shake It. Like, they could totally do Wario Land. Anyway.
I mean, they can't.
It got so bad. Yeah. I mean, they can't because Nintendo's not letting them, but yeah. Anyway, it got so bad so fast that Nintendo made the very rare move of tweeting a follow-up saying just a few hours later it was not a first-party property, but a third-party one. And then fast forward to the next day, the end of the Treehouse Live, and what do we get? Bakugan. So,
well,
how hyped are you guys?
I mean, in their defense, at least we are like 100% confirmed that Leonidas will be in Bakugan, which is what I feel any self-respecting Bakugan fan cares about.
I don't know who Leonidas is, so I guess I'm not a Bakugan fan.
They felt it necessary to point that fact out during the presentation.
They really did, yeah.
And that's, for some reason, that's the only thing that stuck to me. I'm like, oh, I guess he must be important. I guess it's a good thing he's in here and I'm not missing out. But
so you mean it wasn't the 100 quests, it wasn't the 80 Bakugan. Is the plural Bakugan also Bakugan? Bakugans, Bakuginis? Anyway, the 80 of them. It wasn't the online multiplayer. Bakugai. It wasn't the online multiplayer powered by Nintendo Switch Online, subscription required. It was Leonidas coming back?
Yep.
Interesting. The whole thing, like, watching it reminded me, it was like a poor man's Yokai Watch mixed with like a poor man's Pokemon. Like, I feel bad saying that, but it just looked like half baked. I don't know.
Ouch.
Like,
game development isn't easy, Jason.
I know, and I'm not saying like I'm like can fix it, but I'm just saying like I feel like that was not the best foot forward of that game. And I think like what's puzzling to me about it is they enlisted a developer as talented as way forward, only to say no. Don't make what you're good at and what you're known for. Don't make a 2D side score. Instead, can you make us a 3D action RPG? Like, what?
So is Nintendo funding this then? Is that?
No, they. So I have a theory about that.
Or is this a two-party game?
This is WB that's publishing it. Yeah, it's WB that's publishing it. Nintendo has it as an exclusive, and I think the reason. Conspiracy hats on, boys. I think
I'm having trouble thinking of a 3D game they made.
Hold on, let me find it. It's somewhere around here.
They didn't make a 3D game ever. If anything, if they were to pick any developer to like do this, I don't know why they didn't do Yacht Club Games, because Yacht Club Games has at least said they can do 3D. They're actually, according to a job listing I saw somewhere, I think Go Nintendo covered it. Yacht Club Games is actually hiring to complete a 3D game they're making right now. So like they're already in that world, but they have the same 2D pedigree. Like that would have made more sense to me. But what? Yeah, Shovel Knight 3D 64, probably what they'll call it. But I think the reason Nintendo made such a big deal out of this ho-hum Bakugan is Reginald Fils-Aimé. Now, hear me out. I've got the whiteboard with all the clues and the strings connecting them. Hear me out. Reggie was the former president of Nintendo of America, yes?
No, you're wrong.
No? Oh, well, time to tear down the whiteboard. But no, he was the former president of NOA.
Pepe Sylvia somewhere in there?
What? No. No, sorry, I don't. But the Treehouse is also part of NOA. The Treehouse hosted the presentation. Now, Reggie, he may have cut ties with said NOA when he announced his retirement, but he just so happens to be on the board of a company called Spin Masters Corp. And who is Spin Masters, you may ask? Why, it is none other than the IP holder of Bakugan. So my theory is that Reggie is playing both sides of this. He probably still has Nintendo stock, so he convinced Spin Masters and WB Games that Bakugan should be Switch exclusive because the demographics line up and yada yada. But then, simultaneously,
if anything is going to raise the Nintendo stock, it's the newest Bakugan game.
No, not raise it. Not raise it. But he wants to ensure that...
Blow it out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. Send it into space. And so here's the thing. So he has the Bakugan side, right? And the Nintendo stock in his hand in Spin Master's pocket, right? That's not the right phrase. Simultaneously, though, he used his old Nintendo connections, such as product marketing head Bill Trennan, a treehouser if there ever was one, to, via this man on the inside, convince NOA that promoting Bakugan as if it was one of their own is in their own best interest, and it'll give a sales boost to help his new love, Spin Master. And if you need proof of my theory, look no further than Reggie having tweeted a tweet within minutes of Bakugan's announcement, sharing the news of how his old and new worlds are colliding. He even used the wrong Treehouse Live hashtag to give the appearance of not being in cahoots, but I know the truth. I'm on to you, Reggie. Like, Nintendo could easily, if they wanted to do a game from the mid-2000s that no one cares about, there's a new Zoids coming out a month prior. There's a Zoids Wild Beasts Unleashed coming out in October. They didn't highlight that. They highlighted Bakugan.
Bakugan, a word that I haven't heard in over 10 years.
I rest my case.
Whoa,
Reggie
that old?
is colluding.
Yeah,
like the only... it's like hard for me to think of any other like Japanese game animes from that era besides like Yu-Gi-Oh. I feel like since that's the one that won out, I guess, for me and the select group of friends that I played with.
Well, like some are coming back.
Beyblade
Monster Hunter.
It was always there, but I felt like Yu-Gi-Oh was definitely like the champion, and then definitely Beyblade. I mean, it's still around. I mean, kids when I worked at the elementary school couldn't get enough of those things, but. Yeah,
Monster Hunter. They were doing 2 of them on Switch already. So, but
no. I mean, like that had an accompanying anime.
Monster Hunter. Did you never watch the Monster Hunter cartoon on Fox Kids?
That's Monster Rancher.
Oh, I meant Monster Rancher. Wow.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
I the wrong thing is what I'm talking about. I was so listen. I spent all my mental energy.
Like, I don't know, like if you were unlucky enough to be that one kid that was a fan of it, and everyone was like, "Oh, you like that?"
What?
Excuse you, what?
Monster Rancher was dope.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I like Monster Rancher more than Digimon.
I mean, I've heard...
well, you calm down.
I mean, I've heard good things about it, but I barely hear anyone talking about it. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a bad thing. The only reason I say like unfortunate is because there weren't enough people. I guess like in my friend group that liked it to share the love with like
on the show. And
to share opinions. You were
kind
of like on your own because everyone else either watched Pokemon, Digimon, or whatever.
Kevin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you buy that excuse that it was unfortunate that you didn't have someone to talk to if you're a fan, not unfortunate that you liked the thing, which was definitely what he originally meant?
No, that wasn't what I originally meant.
How much do I buy it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is that a good excuse to come?
I absolutely buy it because I was the only one who ever watched that show.
Actually, I was too, to be honest. So, but no, in all seriousness, like whiteboard
what was the gimmick?
Conspiracy.
Like, you could put any CD into your PlayStation, and that gives you a new monster?
Yes, and it worked. And you know what's crazy? So they're porting Monster Rancher 1 to the Switch, and they're bringing 2, but they don't have a CD drive on the Switch. They are actually opening a website where you can go and list off CDs they should consider, and then you go through a menu on the system and you pick the CDs, and they're all real CDs that are being in the game. They just choose from a menu, which is kind of nuts.
I can't wait to see what Jesus brings up.
Right? And I don't even know how they're filtering it, or if they're only like non-parental advisory ones. But yeah, I'm curious what Yeezus brings up, what anything Linkin Park brings up.
Now that's what I call music. 69 brings up.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I don't know. It's it'll be interesting. But I do think like the Bakugan, my little tinfoil hat thing, like in some seriousness, I do think it's kind of interesting how Reggie's current retiree life is still like constantly intersecting with Nintendo. Like besides Spin Masters, he just joined as an advisor in indie game studio called Rogue Games. It's really like a gaming Avengers over there. It's him. It's the former PlayStation head, Jack Trenton.
Isn't a board member of?
No, apparently not. The thing about Rose, the other thing I was gonna say is it's not only those two. So you got the PlayStation guy and the Nintendo guy. The CEO of the studio is Matt Casamanesina. I don't know how to say his last name. He's like the former head of IGN in the Nintendo channels during the GameCube and Wii days. Like the IGN Nintendo guy is running that, and now like the former head of Nintendo's working with him as an advisor. So kind of interesting. Like on the Nintendo side, Rogue hasn't done much yet. Like up to this point, they did mobile games. Like there's one they have on Apple Arcade called Super Impossible Road. It's basically a game where like you have to find the shortcuts, like in Mario Kart 64's Rainbow Road, in order to win. So you have to like go off the track as it winds, or like Monkey Ball maybe. But they're now doing games on consoles. Like Reggie is advising a Switch game. They're making a game that they're calling a PT style. Remember PT, the Konami thing? A PT style horror game called Under, and Reggie is advising that, apparently. So he's back making games for Nintendo from outside Nintendo, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, you're right. He's on every board because he's still on the GameStop board too. I didn't even think of that. There's another cross section of Reggie and Nintendo. Although I hope that one he actually gets to advise them well. Because you guys hear about that mask policy they have now?
Yeah.
No.
So GameStop's gonna require people to wear masks if they want to shop at GameStop, which is smart. But they're not allowing any employees to enforce the policy. So it's literally just an empty PR gesture.
So how does that work?
Exactly. It doesn't. They sent out a memo to employees basically saying, we encourage masks and we delight in our customers wearing them, or whatever wording they use. However, don't tell them they have to finish their transaction. Which is like so dumb.
I might go on a rant here.
Please do.
And I'm sorry if you're a GameStop employee who really loves working at GameStop. GameStop,
I don't think any of them do, just so we're clear.
GameStop right now, especially during this pandemic, is one of the most pathetic companies that I can think of. Ever since keeping their business their stores open, because who was it? I think the CEO was like, "Oh, we're an essential business because we sell keyboards and webcams and stuff like that."
Yep.
You can go straight up screw yourself with that nonsense. And now the fact that employees can't even tell people to buzz off if they don't have any. I'm heavily censoring myself here.
Appreciated.
The fact that they can't tell customers to leave if they don't have masks. Oh, you have to finish their transaction. What? It reeks of desperation because they know they're going under soon. Yeah. They know they're going under soon, and you're just trying to squeeze out every little penny out of everybody that you can.
At the cost of the health
at the cost of the health of the employees and other customers who might be in the store. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. I never want to ever go back into a GameStop ever again.
I mean,
not that I have, but
they always were kind of pathetic. Like they push so hard on upselling you on everything you ever do there. Like I used to be a very frequent GameStop customer in Montana when I was growing up. Software Center was like I was always there. The staff knew me and would give me like promo displays. It was great. Move here in high school, go to GameStop. It was okay, but then like they just kept, and they knew me. The staff like recognized me, but they kept pushing the upsell over and over and over and over, and it'd be like 5 times in one transaction. Just be like, I'd rather just go Best Buy at this point. Like it was just like they kind of destroyed themselves, I would say. Like obviously the internet didn't help, but like the poor customer experience, which this is just kind of the kind of like exaggerated form of, but the poor experience, just it's been their culture for so long that like they really screwed up.
And I understand on the upselling because they are a business, and to a degree, I can understand. No, I can't even understand the mask thing. This is a matter of public health. It's not a matter of you trying to get your money, like in the way that is when it comes to upselling.
There's a fun, I use sarcastically, tug of war going on between the economics of the pandemic and the safety of the pandemic, and for some reason, those are considered equal footing. When really, it doesn't. If no one's safe, there is no economy because everyone's dead. So I don't really, or at least in a hospital. So I don't really know like what the logic is with some of this. But they're just playing the field in the same way that like Disney won't open their corporate office in California, but they will open their theme park in Florida. We are roughly the same rates. So like, there's definitely like a business. I'm just mostly disappointed that every zombie movie was wrong, that when there's a zombie outbreak, like everyone would band together and try and stop it. In reality, I think half the people would be like, zombie's not so bad. Like, I have a constant supply of food. Like, I don't mind this. Like, I got mine.
I'm still going to send my kids to school.
Yeah, it's okay. maybe when maybe they'll have an easier time learning when they can just eat someone else's brain. Like, it's just like, it's so dumb. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but, just GameStop. You're GameStop knows that time is up. At this point, they're like, all right, screw the public healthy of everybody. Let's just try to make as much money as we can before the Titanic sinks, And it's so disgusting.
I really, really, really hope that Reggie is like an arm's length away and is just giving them advice as needed, or like can maybe sway them to be a little better. Because I think Reggie, the reason he joined the board, and I kind of agree, is there is something to be said for having a retailer that is dedicated to games. The same way that there's like, you have a movie theater, and then you have like those like indie art houses, and then you have you can go buy a movie at Best Buy. Like those are all different experiences. And I think gaming, you have kind of the indie art house thing with independent shops. You could argue you have sort of the mainstream movie theater experience with like a Dave & Buster's, but it isn't at the scale of like other mediums where there isn't a like dedicated like games place in the way there is for other things. And I feel like a bookstore or a comic book shop. And I feel like there's room for that, and there's a reason to have that, but GameStop is not. Just because they're the ones there now doesn't mean they have to be the ones that stay that, unless they can reinvent themselves in some sort of positive way.
Yeah,
which they're not. They're nowhere near at the moment. It's bad. But we digress. We've been digressing a lot. We were talking about Bakugan, right? And I think on paper, I do kind of get why this exists. Like, Reggie, conspiracy aside, like if I were Nintendo, what I'm looking at and wanting to promote here is a third-party exclusive developed by one of the most prominent indies on the Nintendo scene. And it's a franchise that has some sort of nostalgia from the 2000s in the same way that for older fans riding the 90s nostalgia wave, there's opportunities to sell to them. I just think, like, A, the game maybe could have looked a bit better, and B, maybe they could have picked a better IP for some, like, aughts nostalgia. Is that what the 2000s are? Aughts?
The aughts, yeah. That's what some people call it, the aughts.
Yeah, so I feel like they could have, like, they could have picked any game or franchise to bring back from, let's say, 2000 to 2010, and I bet you it could have been better than Bakugan. Like, what are there any that you guys would have wanted to see? Not even just Nintendo ones. Let's say any Bakugan isn't Nintendo. Any property from like the first decade of this century, like I feel like could have gone better. Are there any that like you wish maybe they would have done instead, or any you just wish would come back in some capacity?
I guess Way Forward in particular. I just want Chibi Robo to come back, but I don't know if I want Way Forward near it.
But just in general, like, never mind Way Forward, just the idea that Nintendo's like, here's an opportunity to get a IP going again.
It has to be a third-party company IP too. It can be
first-party. Or it could be first party. It doesn't even have to be Way Forward. I just mean, like, here's an opportunity to be like, let's revive X, and instead they're like, no, Bakugan. like for me, I've been into the idea of a Prince of Persia revival for a while now.
I'm sorry, what game?
Prince of Persia. Because, like, I don't know if you saw
any of them.
So the GameCube one, I've only played Sands of Time. Like, of the three of that trilogy, I didn't play Emo Warrior Within. I didn't play the third one, whose names I forget. But Sands of Time was good.
Twin Sands, I think? Or the Twin
something? That's right. But I really like Sands of Time. I'm just going to keep saying its name. Sands of Time. And I thought it was a really cool...
Like Jake Gyllenhaal?
No, well, yes, but not the game. That's the movie. Right idea, wrong medium. But
I saw that movie.
How was that movie?
What a mistake it was.
But yeah, like, I feel like if they rebooted Prince of Persia, like, that was a big property for Ubisoft at the time. And there's actually a leak that came to mind to me.
Wait, there's a fourth game.
There is not.
There is.
There was a leaked one in May.
No, it's not the leaked one. There is a fourth game.
Oh.
Because after the twin whatever, they did another reboot. No, not Twin Snakes. Hold on. I gotta check this up.
Well, you look it up. Well, I'll explain the leak. Angel, do you know what we're talking about with this leak that happened? I can fill you in real quick while he looks it up. So, Prince of Persia, there's a game in the works called Prince of Persia Redemption. And there's a target render they made of like kind of like one of those Ubisoft, like, look, it's a game, it's gameplay, but it's not. They made like a 7-minute long video, I think, and it was sitting on YouTube.
The Forgotten Sands.
Forgotten Sands, right? How fitting.
That's not the third one. The Two Thrones is the third one that you're thinking of,
right? And Forgotten Sands was the one after.
Was the fourth one? No, it was the one after the 2008 reboot.
God, there's two. Well, point is, they need to bring it back in the way they, again, I guess. But yeah, because like that leaked, the leak from 2012 that just somehow was sitting on YouTube for 8 years and no one noticed until like in May, which for those who haven't seen it, we'll link to it on the blog post, but it actually looks really cool. It's very like of its era. Like it sort of looks like Uncharted through like a Prince of Persia lens. But it did make me nostalgic for Sands of Time, and basically since early May, I've been kind of like, what's going on, Prince of Persia? Is there anything happening? And what's annoying is there was a glimmer of hope yesterday because I saw Ubisoft is rebooting Prince of Persia, but as a shared VR experience, like you know, like the Void where they do like the Star Wars thing. Yeah, it's called. And here's the thing: it's called the Dagger of Time. It's actually set during the Sands of Time trilogy. So maybe they're priming the pump a bit. I don't know. But I was just kind of like, I've been wanting Prince of Persia since this thing leaked. And then suddenly Ubisoft's like, hey, Prince of Persia, but not how you think. And I think, like, in a way, to go back to Ubisoft Forward, we were talking about it a little bit ago. But I think that's what made Ubisoft Forward so disappointing to me is, like, I wasn't counting on them suddenly reviving Prince of Persia in a meaningful way. But I also thought a company like Ubisoft, who traditionally has been a big backer of Nintendo platforms, like, I thought they would talk about the Switch in at least some capacity, even if it was just throwing some port compilations our way, kind of like they did with Assassin's Creed. Like, a Prince of Persia 3-pack would have been pretty cool and would have primed the pump better than a VR experience that you do socially that no one can do because VR arcades are closed right now. Like, so that would have been cool. Like, you know, some sort of, like, Splinter Cell collection would have been cool. Like, I know there's rumblings of that series returning. Both of those games, I would say, are, like, some of my favorite third-party GameCube-era games. And yet, Ubisoft gave us nothing. We got literally nothing for Switch. Even games that were announced for Switch, like Gods and Monsters, which apparently is now getting a serious reworking, no show. Didn't pop up at all. Like somehow EA and 2K are now better supporters of the Switch than Ubisoft. It's bizarro world. But yeah, like, so when I saw Bakugan and Prince of Persia, I'm just like, why can't Bakugan be Prince of Persia? And why can't Prince of Persia just happen already? They already tried it. What is going on? It was just frustrating. But I don't know if you were saying Chibi Robo Angel.
Yeah.
Was there any other that, like, you just wish, or Kevin, on your end, that you'd like any franchises that just deserve a second chance now, or reboot?
Kingdom Hearts. Reboot Kingdom Hearts, make the story actually make sense. And no, I'm kidding. No, I can't really think of any at the top of my head right now.
But yeah, it just seems like it just
Billy Hatcher. Give me a
give
me a Billy Hatcher sequel
or
some sort of reboot.
Sonic Adventure 2, 3.
Well, I mean, Billy Hatcher's not that far removed. Angel, did you ever play Billy Hatcher?
No, but I saw the video. I forgot what game I got that had like different trailers for different games, but that's where I saw it. Looked cool.
It's like, it's not quite Sonic at all, but it is a pretty fun game. It is from Yuji Naka. It was his, like, it was a GameCube exclusive, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And I think it was, and it was like, basically his first original game in a long time. Actually, from that point of view, like, a new Crazy Taxi or just a re-release on Switch of the existing Crazy Taxi would be cool. I like Crazy Taxi.
A Crazy Taxi done by, like, Criterion would be super dope.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. Or, like, even, like, if, while we're going down the Sega route, like a Skies of Arcadia re-release of some sort, maybe an up-res, that'd be kind of cool. That was a cool game. Mm-hmm. Power Stone. I never played that one, but I know people like it. That's Capcom now. I'm jumping around like crazy. But, yeah, I guess, like, the point is arguably, like, these are all better nostalgia plays for us than Bakugan. But maybe Nintendo knows something we don't about Bakugan. Like, all I know is that when you keep his radio silent in Nintendo and then you only pull back the curtain for Bakugan, you're gonna get a reaction. Especially now, since, like I was saying earlier, like, we know of not a single first-party release confirmed for this year. And like even if Nintendo sticks to their quicker turnaround time, like 8 weeks from announcement to release, which they did with Paper Mario and with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, as of now, that means we will not have a single new Nintendo game until late September at the very earliest. Which just seems odd for them. Like for the time being, it's not like Nintendo necessarily needs it. They're not in a bad spot. It feels like they're a refrain that I kind of always fall back to throughout the pandemic, which is, we question Nintendo's course of action, but then the NPD group puts out sales numbers and they're killing it. And sure enough, June sales numbers came out and Nintendo's still killing it. Like Switch is still the top selling hardware this month. Animal Crossing still selling like crazy. Number 3 spot on the overall top 20. Mario Kart's at number 9. Smash is at 11. Zelda's at 14. Since you guys actually just spent nearly an hour of our Quarantine Chronicles talking about Last of Us 2, here's a fun fact for you. Number 1 game in June. It was the biggest launch of the year, bigger than Animal Crossing.
I thought you were saying, since you guys spent an hour talking about
no.
I'm going to spend an hour talking about sales numbers. I'm like,
this is going to be brief. Don't worry. But no, it was the number 1 game of the year, bigger than Animal Crossing. It did not quite beat Spider-Man to be PlayStation's biggest launch ever, but is now number 2 on the list. So it was a good month for Last of Us. But the success story for Nintendo this month is probably Ring Fit Adventure, which thanks to people like you, Kevin, the restock in June, it went from, this is crazy. In May, it was number 845 on the overall chart. In June, it was number 7. Like those legs. That's insane. Yeah, you did your part. And in a way, like, I get on some level, it does seem like Ring Fit's a whole new release for Nintendo because it was so hard to come by for so long. So Nintendo can ride that out. Same goes kind of for Animal Crossing. Like, it doesn't have the same newness, but clearly, updates like the swimming and diving features rolled out a few weeks ago, and that's resonating with folks. And there's still the whole word-of-mouth viral marketing that's going on. People keep making memes. Like, Angel, you sent me that Hamilton one the other day, which we'll link to. Do you want to talk? Actually, before I even keep going, that Hamilton one's pretty cool.
I mean, the short of it is someone that is clearly a huge Hamilton fan and a huge Animal Crossing fan went out of their way to go into Harvey's Island, which is where I guess you do a photo op mode, and they give you a free moving camera where you're just supposed to take a bunch of pictures of whatever you want. But this person went the extra mile and actually created a bunch of the songs from Hamilton using the Animal Crossing characters, which was really impressive synchronization and a bunch of nice staging. Like the backdrops they use, the editing, it could almost be played off as like an official, like Nintendo made recreation, which is really impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of, I guess, fan creation cool. That I felt definitely deserves a nod.
Yeah, it was the one for My Shot in particular. It's really good. Mm-hmm. So we'll link to, I guess, it's one playlist, I think. So we'll just link to that in the blog post. But
it is unfortunate that the most recent Animal Crossing patch, like I guess they were taking advantage of a glitch where the viewfinder doesn't appear on, I guess, on the camera as you're recording or taking pictures of things, but now it's always present at all times. Which
that's kind of annoying. Yeah.
Which doesn't look as neat. But right. It is what it is.
It's just kind of in your way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the reason I brought that up was, like, the viral market, like, Animal Crossing still has word of mouth in its favor. But at the same time, like, I think we are starting to see signs of maybe things slipping a bit. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles came out, right? It is in the Switch's top 10 sellers, which, interestingly, so is the Outer Worlds Switch port. Who would have thought? But neither of them, definitely not Outer Worlds, made the top 20 chart. Perhaps more notably, though, a play for the casual audience introduced to Switch by Animal Crossing, Clubhouse Games, that didn't make it onto any chart. It wasn't on the top 20. It wasn't on Switch's dedicated 10. And that game in particular feels like maybe that's one that maybe a lot of people go digital for, but even in those cases, half the audience traditionally still buys physical. So, like, did it really do that poorly? Will it maybe be a slow burn? Like, either way, I think it indicates that if and when Animal Crossing and Ring Fit taper off, Nintendo will need more to work with. Like, they've been fortunate to ride this out for so long. And there's really no reason, like, that momentum's going to suddenly stop or fall off a cliff. But, like, as it comes down, like, as people start going to the world in some places and lockdowns sort of end, like, what's Nintendo have? It's literally a blank slate right now. Like, already on the hardware side, like, the trend of year-over-year gains has stopped. Hardware in the industry is down 17% compared to last June. That's the first time since lockdown that it went down. And Switch is still killing it. software, even in the industry as a whole, software has propelled overall sales to a 10-year high. But maybe it's like a canary in the coal mine situation, but they're like all those stories of how the Switch kept breaking the Wii's old sale records. Not true this month. It did not break a 2010 record again. And obviously it's still doing extremely well, but if it and hardware in general and Nintendo's new releases are all slowly starting to taper, which on some level is of course to be expected, but again, it just points to the fact that Nintendo really shouldn't rest on their laurels and assume that giving us Bakugan and nothing else will keep everything running at full steam for months on end. Like, there's got to be something else. I don't know what. I don't know when. I want Prince of Persia. But there's got to be, like, something else they got to do. So it'll be interesting to see if they do a Nintendo Direct or any sort of announcement in the next couple of weeks here. Because this is the first time, as far as I can remember, that we know nothing about their lineup. Literally nothing. Outside of a Pokemon
Yeah,
DLC
no announced
update,
directs whatsoever or anything?
There's rumored to be one on Monday the 20th, which is, the day after this goes up, but they didn't announce it, so nothing.
Doesn't seem like
But it does seem like
they haven't said anything yet.
Yeah, no, they'll
I mean,
probably
have they ever had a direct the same day they actually announce it?
Well, they did they could do direct minis with no notice, and they can drop an announcement like Paper Mario with no notice, but meanwhile they're instead hyping Bakugan. So, who knows? But it does seem like a weird note to end the show on, to be like,
fans are going to
have
be
no games.
Bakugan if they keep this up.
Beautiful. No, but I was going to say, like, I feel like there's so many times where, like, what's Nintendo doing? We don't know. Find out next time. So instead, let's end how we began the episode. Let's end with something a little more positive. Let's talk about a novel concept again. Video game shows. This is a thing now, apparently. Like, days apart, The Sims and Tetris announced they are both turning into game shows, which is kind of interesting and odd and weird, and I felt like a nice little closer for this episode. In part because the way they're doing it is so different from one another. Like, ultimately, they both seem to have the same idea of shepherding people to a game, but they're coming at it from literally opposite angles. So, did you guys happen to hear about either of these, or is this news to you guys?
This is
I
news
had
to
heard
me.
about them, but I had heard about them, but didn't look.
Are they on
So-
TV or something?
What? Angel?
What are they
Angel?
on? Are they on Spike
So
or something?
so there's one that will be on an app, and there's one that will be on TV. So the one on TV is
Like
The
TV
Sims.
doesn't exist anymore.
It's now Paramount Network. So, yes. But yeah, the one is for The Sims, and it's called The Sims Sparked. And this is like, it's going to be on TBS on Fridays and Saturdays, and then there's going to be an online follow-up show on BuzzFeed's YouTube channel on Monday, which is the strangest pairing of airings I've ever heard. But basically, it's Top Chef or like Cupcake Wars, like Great British Bake Off, but you're making things in The Sims. So the idea is, like, instead of making food or designing a dress or whatever, you're actually crafting a story told through The Sims, and then there are 3 celebrity judges who will pick which story they find the favorite. And there are 12 contestants, and they're all going to be making these stories and getting advice from, like, Sims developers and stuff, and, like, building out different stories for different scenarios. And the idea is to showcase, like, what you can do in The Sims for people who haven't played The Sims. It's like a marketing move for The Sims, but also to get a TV audience hooked into it the same way that a lot of people will watch the baking shows and then suddenly go start baking and learn how to bake.
Wait, are
And
there
to
12
that end-
contestants? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's 12 contestants, yeah.
No, across the season or each episode?
The season. It's a
okay.
recurring thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little different, I guess. But the interesting part of it is, so, if you watch something like Cupcake Wars, you can go make a cupcake afterwards or go get the ingredients. So when they launched this
Or just
show...
buy a cupcake?
Or buy a cupcake, which is my personal preference. So when they launch this show, what they're actually going to do is they're going to put in-game elements and goals and stuff and challenges that are from the show. So you can watch the show, be like, that's cool, and then go buy The Sims and right away start doing basically what they did in the show, but on your own. So it's really just a really long commercial, but it's kind of an interesting way of doing it. And I guess The Sims has this capability. I mean, it is pretty open-ended, but I would not have pegged The Sims as a game competition reality show thing prior to this.
It honestly seems a little half-assed to me. Just like, oh, 12 people are going to be playing The Sims, and these celebrity judges are just going to vote on which one they like the most. So
And then the winner gets
$100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah, so it's not even like well, I guess the Great British Bake Off isn't objective, but I don't know. It's
to be fair, one of the 3 judges is a developer of The Sims. Actually, it's 2 celebrity judges and a Sim developer. But nonetheless, it's still like what? And it's hosted by a random former American Idol contestant. So the cream of the crop for this one.
Who do you know who speaking gibberish?
I don't remember his name. Honestly, if the whole show was in Simese, that would, or whatever it's called, that would Simlish, yes, Simese. God, I sound racist. But if it was Simlish, that would be amazing, and I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Would you?
And if they got musical no, but if they got musical performance. Actually, I would check it out. Yeah, and if they got musical performances, because you know how they used to do music videos in Simlish, like they would get the Black Eyed Peas to do it, and they do remixes of songs. I would watch will.i.am have to rap in Simlish through auto-tune, 100%.
That was the Burbs, right?
Yeah, the Herbs.
Sims in the City
with a Z. Yeah.
Was it the Herbs or the Burbs?
Herbs, because it was urban.
Herbs.
Yeah, it was urban, which was definitely coded language at the time. Yeah. But yes, that's game show number 1. That's kind of weird. Game show number 2 is is more, I think, our speed. Tetris is getting a thing called Tetris Primetime, and it's going to be inside the Tetris app. It will be daily, and you will compete in it's kind of like an esports competition, but it's going to have an HQ trivia style live experience with a host. So every night at 7:30 at your local time zone. I
forgot about HQ.
Right? Yeah, but every night they're going to be doing this, and you'll be able to win $5,000 a day. $1 million has already been earmarked for the entire first year, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And essentially, you play Tetris, but there's a guy who's some New Zealand actor who's telling you about Tetris. And apparently, the show components got previews from that night's competition, highlight reels from the day's best plays. They'll be tracking the app. And it's basically the way that the article I was reading it summed it up is it's ESPN, but for Tetris. So you boot up the app and you're going to get this video feed of everything going on in Tetris World first, and Tetris Primetime that night. And then you can go and do the competition, or you can go do a knockoff of Tetris 99, which I guess isn't a knockoff if it's also from Tetris. But it's called Tetris Royale, and it'll have 100 people instead of 99. And then those will be highlighted. And then there's another mode called Tetris Together, which is a private multiplayer rooms with real-time voice chat. And then there's, of course, the solo offerings. And they're trying to make Tetris the super social experience, which, it's a game that traditionally isn't. But they're doing it through a weird game show angle. And I don't really know how you do highlights of Tetris. There's only so many T-spins you can see before you're I know, there's so many you can see before I'm done. But I do think it's interesting how it came out within a day or two of The Sims Sparked, and how it's the exact reverse approach. So I am kind of curious to see how these actually go. I mean, if I were to do one, I would probably do Tetris. I imagine if you guys were to watch one, it would be, and play one, it'd be Tetris, huh? Since there's actual money on the line and it's Tetris.
Yeah. Agree.
I just don't know. Touchscreen Tetris just does not sound appealing to me. Because this one's on mobile.
touchscreen Tetris on mobile has never been great.
Yeah. But I am curious to check this out just to see. I would watch it. I don't know when this starts, but I will tune in once or twice just to see what it's like. Sim Spark. Maybe if I'm bored, I'll go find it on BuzzFeed's YouTube channel or whatever. But
is this one actually hosted by somebody?
Primetime?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hosted by some New Zealand actor. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His name's Baird, something like that.
If it's not Scott Rokowski, I do not care.
It's not. It's sadly not Scott. I feel bad for Scott. The whole way HQ disintegrated and how they turned on him was really ridiculous.
Technically he was the one that made HQ, but I don't know. It seems like he got off the best out of HQ completely.
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, considering this could be super morbid, considering one of them died of a drug overdose, yes, he did get off better than that.
Well, no. I'm saying that he I don't know what he works at now, but the fact that he works somewhere else and it's not HQ, considering that HQ is dead already.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing is, these daily shows are interesting, but there needs to be a novelty factor. And I remember, there needs to be something to keep you coming back. Because I remember HQ did a second season where they mixed up the show a bit, and it just was not enough. They missed the moment, so to speak. And I do wonder, I think one thing The Sims Spark is doing that's really smart is it's short. It's 4 weeks or something. I don't know how it's possible with 12 contestants, but it's not long. And then you look at like Tetris Primetime, and this is like, oh, we're gonna do it daily. We built a whole app around it, and you tune into ESPN like, but for Tetris every day. It's like, how many people 3 months from now are still gonna be doing that? Like, you need something to mix it up. You can't just have it always be available. Like, I don't know. I think they weirdly have a bigger uphill battle to get to get longevity than, you know, a show that does seasons for 4 or 5 episodes. But we shall see. We shall see. It's also weird because like Twitch is doing a show too about like becoming a streamer. Like they're doing a reality competition of like the king of, I forgot what it's called, but it's basically like the king of streamers, and it's kind of more like SimSpark, but it's like new streamers are teaming up with like professional, like well-known streamers as coaches, and they're gonna like compete to see who streams the best or something. So it is interesting that like
weird.
All these what?
No, I said weird.
Yeah, and it's produced by Amazon Prime, like Twitch's sister company, I guess, or Twitch Prime's producing it, which is separate from Twitch Corporate, I recently learned, even though they're both Twitch. So, yeah, it's interesting to just see all our interactive hobbies becoming like linear television shows now.
Some of them are even becoming games. Gamer Girl, for example.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gamer Girl, that was something. You want to describe that for those who were both fortunate and unfortunate
but
to see
2020?
it? Basically.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. That's what it is.
That was a good summary, actually, yeah. But that, whew.
Is that, I'm sure you can find that trailer anywhere, right? Like,
so the developer took it down. Why did the developer take it down? Does anyone know?
I'm assuming the backlash that they got from it.
I would guess, but does that mean the game's not coming out, or?
Gamer Girl trailer. So you can, so if you just put Gamer Girl trailer on YouTube,
that's plenty of re-uploads, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So, what's your take on it, Kevin? You're kind of in the streamer world. What's your take on it?
Well, I guess I know from us three here the most about like the Twitch culture and stuff like that. What a terrible idea!
That's about what I was looking for.
Not specifically because of like the whole you're a moderator for this like attractive female streamer who I'm sure is going to. I think it's the fact that there are female streamers specifically that do get these. So it's supposed to be a reflection of a female streamer's life and how you, as the moderator, the player, are going to help her through this. But like, if you've seen the trailer at the end, it looks very Blair Witchy, where
it goes like horror movie.
Yeah, it's almost like a horror movie. But there's a well-known female streamer. Her name is Sweet Anita, who like has a real life stalker, and that she constantly has to get the police involved with. And I think I understand what the developers are trying to do here, and they even made a response on their own Twitter, like, "Oh, it's supposed to be empowering and stuff like that." But I think it's very tone deaf, considering some of the stuff that some of these female streamers actively go through on a day-to-day basis. It's something.
Even in the trailer, like they really make the gamer girl very one-dimensional and very like, haha, bubbly, and I'm not a real person.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's.
You remember the I don't see this going down. Should I go get drinks with this friend?
Yeah, and like, why would she be like, you're a moderator? Why? And then you're like, and then they like cut to her like dancing with the moderator at a club.
Yeah,
listen,
why? That's a weird streamer, not like a
moderated Nintendo's official forum. I literally run moderation teams at my current job. Never once have I or any of the moderators I know gone clubbing with a member of the community. Like, what? That's not a thing.
And to be fair, in Twitch, you do have like TwitchCon where some of these streamers do meet their mod members. They're not like mod team.
That. They're like in London.
Absolutely like that.
Where, is it? Okay.
There will be like Twitch parties, and some of the streamers will hang out with their mod team for a little bit. Who knows what they do off camera or off stream, but there definitely are stories. There are stories of this stuff going on, but like I said, the fact that it goes like Night Trap at the end, or what seems to be the end of the game, I think is very much the most tone deaf part of the game, considering there are female streamers that do constantly get harassed by these weirdo psychopaths who want to be with their queen and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like
online
it's just
culture in general has like I feel like we went from ending on a downer if we have no games to being like, oh, but game shows, to being like, oh, but society's really messed up. But like gaming culture in general, like there's not internet in general. Like it leveled the playing field so much that so many people that maybe shouldn't have access to normal people like get it. I mean, like without really taking us down a dark road, but like the Smash community these last few weeks, like Smash Bros, that like it's a mess. Like it's there's no accountability really.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just like crowdsourced, and it can become very problematic very fast. But before we go down that road,
maybe
we don't talk about that. Maybe maybe we just wrap this and talk about our next episode. That might be the better angle. So yeah, our next episode is coming August 2nd. I think we'll be talking about Paper Mario: The Origami King, right? Like we should have impressions. I know at least some of us are getting it. All of us are getting it.
Impressions?
Maybe. Yeah, I honestly don't know if I'm going to get it, just considering how much I'm playing right now. Adding another game to that, I'm going to start becoming Jason, where I start buying games, not finishing them.
Welcome. Glad to have you here. But yeah, we'll have some sort of Paper Mario discussion. We may have a Nintendo Direct by then. Who knows? Maybe Nintendo's going to team up with Shinen and make a Beyblade game. Who knows? So we'll have stuff to talk about. The only way to find out is to subscribe and follow. We are on Twitter at Ram Nintendo. We are on all the podcast apps: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora. And be sure to not just check in 2 weeks on August 2nd, but also check on the off weeks, so next weekend, for our 6th Quarantine Chronicles as well. And to make sure you don't miss that, again, Twitter, Ram Nintendo, that's your best bet. And individually, we're on Twitter as well. I'm JSR7. Angel is Weiro, WEIRO _O. Kevin is KVN Gomez. Go me. And I think that just about does it. Unless, before we get to any final words before Kevin's final word.
Technically, my final word will be, I just thought of an answer for that question that you had, like what IP would you want to be brought back? IGPX.
Ooh.
Does anybody know what IGPX is?
Isn't it a racing thing? A futuristic racing game?
It's like a racing mech game.
It's like it kind of had a vibe like Wipeout, right?
Yeah, a little bit. The anime was really cool on Toonami.
Oh yeah, it had a show. Good choice. Okay, so what's your actual final word? Or was that your final word, and then I usurped it by saying more?
A little bit of both, sure.
Oh, okay. So now final word round 2.
Jason.
New IGPX game.